Regular Village Council regular meeting Tuesday, April 12, 2022. I show the time at 6:05. So we have also a full quorum of members here. No one is participating remotely. So with that, I'm going to ask to adopt the agenda. Do we have any changes?
Have some additions, please. D, consent agenda number 5. I need to add, consider adoption of ordinance amending the general fund budget to appropriate $22,800 for miscellaneous revenue received from Marvin Day sponsorships to community events for Marvin Day expenditures. We need to add Village Hall. Letter F.
Accidentally left it off.
Oh, okay. F, Village Hall. And under H, new business, number 8, consideration of revised Newtown Road, Marvin Road roundabout agreement with NCDOT. Number 9, discuss and consider adoption of resolution for support of CRTPO RAISE grant application. And then I need to add a closed session to consult with the village attorney pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A36. And that's all I have.
Could you repeat that?
Yep.
So this is what I'm working on
Yes.
for the most part.
You are working on that.
Okay. All right. Any other? I really need only removals, right? Yes. We're all good. Okay. I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm always on top of
Hands together.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Show anybody on Zoom land?
Nope.
All right.
No public, no comment.
And public no comments?
The only people here are applicants. So.
All right. So we're moving right along to presentations, reports, and updates. Manager's report.
I don't have anything.
Nothing. Okay. Planner's report.
Just have a few items. Accessory Structures update. I know I kind of mentioned this, I think, during the work session, but Planning Board's working on revisions to specifically like the pool and the SUP process. But since we've actually had, partly with the text amendment tonight, or the text amendment being proposed tonight, and some other, there's going to be just, I'm going to be discussing with Planning Board next week a whole revisions to that section. Kind of referencing setbacks, detached garages, pools, agriculture buildings, all the above. So that will potentially be coming to you guys, since we don't have a work session, probably would be potentially adopted in June, but it was, we can provide a first draft of Planning Board's recommendations and stuff if they get through it the next week at your May meeting. Preserve internal trail connector update. I honestly can't remember why this was on here. I know I got to reach out to need to reach out to both of those property owners. I will do that tomorrow morning. But the easements and stuff have been approved, or the realignment of the easements have been approved by the HOA. I need to work with Chaplin on the language on that. I think you already drafted something like before I started, but as well as potentially seeing if we need to get a plat recorded with that. So everything should be moving forward with that, and I think the trail builder is already out there or starting shortly.
Is that all the way around to where they have the dry pond that they had it down kind of in the...
Yeah.
Up to the ridge?
Should be. I got 2 more. Just wanted to give you guys, do you want me to talk about the roundabout tree planting in this, or are we good now?
No, you need to, because we need to vote on it. We need to say we want this one and then tell Derek.
But do you want to talk about it now, or you want to just talk about it during that line item?
There's no line item, so you need to talk about it now.
Oh,
Your planner's report.
PRG, I got discussed 3 different trees to be planted in the middle of the roundabouts. Single stem crepe myrtle, Yoshimi cherry, and a Japanese maple. Basically, from what I got from the DOT, the Japanese maple was not on their approved planting list. So out of those two, the crepe myrtle and the Yoshino cherry, just need to kind of have some direction on that to move forward.
Yeah.
Basically, I know those are on the approved plant list. We'll probably either need to get approved from DOT or we'll just plant it and then whatever. But based off of size and everything, I think the crepe myrtle will probably be the safer option, but that's just my staff opinion.
From the landscaper's point of view, the crepe myrtle is gonna do better, and it's gonna flower longer, and I think it's a better choice
And
myself.
that's what a Yoshino cherry looks like, in case anybody didn't know.
Maraschino cherry.
Yes, there's gonna be lots of maraschino
Yoshino.
cherries all over that.
That's a heck of a tree.
So is that in the middle of the roundabout?
Yes.
Is that not, I thought we had an issue with side of
That's
vision
site.
stuff. Well, that,
It
That's-
ain't
that
looking
was-
through it.
Well, like I
That's my,
said,
This is the list.
that's
This
the
is
list of it. I know
that
of
they said that we
approved
can-
species. Just in general with right of, yeah, that's from DOT, from right
Bermudas
away
are usually
planting.
single and they grow up, and the way
Yep.
you trim them, you have a line of sight
Did I
almost.
send you that?
all of
Yeah,
them.
if we're doing a single stem, I mean, crepe myrtles, a single stem is probably that big in 20 years.
Yeah,
They don't
the,
get
it's
crazy, it's the multi-stem ones that get thicker.
But they do branch out fairly.
They do, but you keep them
But
trimmed
Up
up.
and out.
Yeah, up and out, yes.
on average, the single stem is roughly 6 to 12 feet tall and 6 to 12 feet wide.
Yes.
The Yoshino cherry, according to the research I found, can get 40 to 50 tall and 20 to 40 in width. I mean, it's on the approved list, like I said, for plantings, but from a roundabout perspective, I'm not, I mean, that's just their planting list within right-of-ways overall.
I
So,
love a good crepe myrtle. I have them all in my yard. I think they're very pretty. So I'm all for a good crepe myrtle.
Where you at?
listen, I can picture catch. I don't know a tree from a baseball bat. So just whatever. I'm going to go with what y'all
Bob?
think is.
I think it's beautiful.
What?
All of it. All of it.
That's an easy way.
Classic Bob. I think it's beautiful. I'll go with that.
Aye.
Crepe myrtle or Yoshino cherry? Which one?
I think both, no, I like the maraschino cherry.
Yoshino cherry.
Yeah.
Wayne?
I'll go with the other one. Just
Crepe myrtle?
Yeah, because if you go down Providence Road get close to the hospital, there's some down there that's that big around. They're really old and they keep them up so you can see through them, keep the canopy up.
Andy.
You know, I would kind of.
Crepe myrtle.
Okay. Joe?
I don't have a vote.
I know, but what's your opinion?
This
I
is
like
a formal
trees.
vote.
Hold Bob, I like trees.
You're pretty.
Trees are nice.
Trees are nice.
All right, so crepe myrtle?
Yeah.
Is that where we are? Okay.
And then I'll
Can you
I'll
let Derek
confirm,
know?
I'll let Derek know, and then I'll also just, if we want to confirm.
The only thing is I would ask, and this is a question, what color crepe myrtle? Because
Oh.
they come in multiple
Pink,
colors.
pink, purple, or red, not white. Anything but white.
Yeah, we kind of left that to Mayor Pro Kim. she was with the pink or the purple.
She leans towards purple all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Or pink. I have my pink hard hat.
No, I mean, you can do multiple, there's gonna be 3.
Yeah, there is. Well,
One of each.
You could do one of each if you want to. They're
Pink,
gonna.
purple, red.
So with the colors of the other plants in the circles, we could go with any of them and they'll look just fine. So
Anything but white.
if you want to do one of each in each one,
But
I'm
there's only 3, so we'd have to pick 2, so those would be on the outside and the inside being a different color.
there's one in each traffic circle. So whatever 2 we want to get now, and then the third.
Right,
get
what
that
I'm
color
saying
back.
is make them different because the outside will be the same and the inside being a different color. Does that make sense?
So one pink, one purple, and then whatever one is on the outside, we'll do on the far one when we
Yeah,
get
we're trying
roundabout in.
Yeah.
You're right, yeah, so
Yeah.
pink or
Okay.
purple, whatever it is.
Whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, the colors are going to work with everything that's in the circle. So
For now, 1 pink and 1 purple.
Yep.
that works.
Sound good?
We let Derek know that.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, and then the final thing, so we have received our first Heritage District rezoning application from Jones Homes on the Odell Prius properties. I think I've informed all you guys on that, but I did want to let you guys know, so they've scheduled their public involvement meeting, and it will be April 27th at New Village Hall. There'll be 3 sessions.
2, 4, and 6.
Are you sending us those invites at times on our?
I have not had a chance to.
Okay,
yet.
no,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
on
saying,
schedule.
will you?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's gotta go out,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna put this on now.
You said
Wait
April
till you-
27th?
April.
What? I was about to say, and I encourage all of council to, coordinate, since it's not for the public meeting purposes, but to arrange a time. The potential would be at one of those.
Split those up, please.
Yeah,
No,
that's-
no quorum present at one single
Well,
meeting.
There's
That's what I'm
3
saying.
times, so 2, and then have Joe at each
Mhm.
one.
Joe, you'll be there this whole time with me.
That's 6 hours.
Yeah.
I'll be spending the day with you.
It's like standing there, everybody step back again.
Can you just
I
schedule
will,
us?
I'll assign y'all to one.
Good.
There you go.
So, give me, it's 2, 4, and 6.
2, 4, and 6.
And it's on
Put me down
April
for
what?
the 6th.
27th.
Well, seriously, if somebody has time preferences, say it.
This
now
is the
for
time, yeah.
another
2,
week.
4, and 6. So Bob's down for 6. Who's with Bob?
6.
Andy. Okay, who's got 2 and 4?
I'll do 2, because Jason's gonna have to off.
I'll do 2.
Kim and Wayne. And
Jamie, get your.
I guess I got 4.
Well, he
Jamie and Joe. Are you at all of them?
I'll be
I'll
with
do
all
4 and
of
6.
you at all times, so just send me that out when you get a chance to show me.
Any chance we'll be in New Village Hall?
We
I mean,
haven't,
it's in-
we have it scheduled for New Village Hall.
Ooh, that's exciting. What is this,
What's
PIM?
this called?
Public,
Yeah.
Public information meeting.
public involved. Yeah, whatever it's.
It's input involvement information. Something.
What time is my time, too?
Yes.
Other than that, appreciate you guys scheduling that. And then if you guys have any questions, obviously on the application, or
Yeah.
if anything comes up,
I'll
because
send
it
you guys
is
invites.
officially,
Just say 2 to 8.
That's what I'm doing.
Just say 2 to 8.
I guess, like public, because it's already been sent to the newspaper, and then the applicant will be getting the letters to all adjoining property owners out this week. So if you guys receive any questions or whatever, you can direct them towards me if you don't feel comfortable or no. But just wanted to give you guys that heads up that potentially you'll see some questions or comments or stuff come up on it.
There should probably be some sort of verbiage in the PIM whatever notifications that, just because it's from 6 to 8 doesn't mean that you can't show up at 7 and get the same information that you would get at 6.
We can do that.
I'm just making sure, because we had some people that were very unhappy with us that thought that we were, I think irresponsible was the word that they used, that we did it from 6 to 8.
Consider it.
Inconsiderate, maybe. Not
So-
irresponsible was it, but could have been inconsiderate. That's it. Sorry.
But yeah, that's all I've got on my planner's report, unless there's any questions or comments on anything. Sweet.
Do you know what that means?
No, I do, but I don't. Like, do I need to mention that on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just say it and then I'll say it.
Okay, well, hold on, there's one other thing that I've been tasked to,
Sorry.
the rainwater garden at Village Hall.
Yeah, so the thing that Derek talked to us about the front with the weeping willow and the
That I
stuff,
talked to you about?
when you did too,
Yeah.
whatever. Parks Rec and Greenway are 100% on board with it, so they just need to know what, do you want help picking plants? What can they help you with?
Okay, so when we discussed it with the urban forester, he said that he would come up with a suggestion
Okay.
and send it,
Okay.
okay? And then what I would like for PRG to do is take that suggestion, look at it, see if there are any suggestions that they want.
Okay.
We'll all collaborate and come up with a plan for it
Perfect.
together.
So we just need to wait, as Parks Rec and Greenway Board, they just need to wait for the list, whatever the urban forester sends us.
Yeah, because he
Okay.
said he was gonna kind of draw something up, right?
Well,
And send
I
it.
shared the examples that we don't have like a species list per se, but I did at PRG last week, we did go over like the visual examples.
Mhm.
That included, I think one
Oh,
was
that's
like
right, he did send them.
the
Yeah.
riprap or the rock, the plantings of the rock, or however we want to do it. So PRG was on board. Sounds like basically if council's on board, then we can start. Staff, Andy, whoever can start working and be the middleman
Kind of
between
design something, draw it
urban
up,
forester,
design it.
PRG, and council.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll get it all together.
Yeah, but they thought it was a great idea, loved the way it looked, so they just said whatever we can do, they
So,
just need to know what their next steps are.
just to be clear, are we gonna be discussing later anything else around the outside village Is it on the agenda or not?
We can probably talk about it at Village Hall,
Okay,
Or open ties.
or, yeah, but probably at Village Hall.
Village Hall.
What was it? Thank you, Hunter.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Hunter. Next up, we have roads report.
Yeah, so I just have one thing. We've been discussing the Newtown Road takeover, and at the last council meeting, I told y'all I'd bring back the rating scale. In 2020, that scale was 74.2. I know our standard, I think, is 90. The rating has to be a 90. So I told you I'd bring this back to you, but I think that we should probably just wait until the roundabout's constructed and see if we can.
Have we heard from David Willis about anything that he might be able to do in terms of getting the rest of it just repaved?
I have not heard from him,
Okay.
so I can follow back up with him, but
Okay.
Well, I mean, will they do another assessment once the roundabout is done?
I
Or
don't
do we have
know.
to just kind of go with what we've got so far?
Yeah, I don't know how, I mean, this was our engineer that went out and assessed it on our dime. I don't know how often they assess their own roads.
We know it's not gonna get any better, so.
Well, I mean, just from what I'm thinking, because of what we will then restrict, that 74% is almost as good as 90%, because longevity is gonna go out that much farther by restricting trucks and, you know, the heavy traffic on it. So, and slowing the speed limit down, all that stuff is gonna play a part in it. So, and a good portion of the really crappy parts are gonna get redone with the roundabout. So, I'm feeling kind of favorable to it, just from this standpoint. If nothing catastrophic happens between now and the time the roundabout's done, which I don't see happening, but, you know, anything can happen.
I'll follow up with Willis, and then I can just add this on like later agendas and we can talk about it. I can probably even put it on the retreat for next year, because nothing's gonna happen until.
And what's in play is all the way down to South Carolina.
Yeah.
And do you know, while we're talking about roads, do you know where we are with all of I know we.
Just ditches.
I
don't.
mean, because you guys did that inventory and sent it to them, and I haven't seen one get fixed. And
definitely some are over 4
Lake
inches.
Marvin's starting to come back up here.
Okay.
So if they want to come throw some more, whatever they did last time worked really well for a long time, but now people just run over it. Now it's getting bad again.
Yeah, they just need to
So
kind
they can do
of
that
grade it
again.
back and fill it back in and do it all right.
Man, you can
And
pothole.
not that like
Marvin
schmutz
Newtown?
that they threw in there.
They've been doing a little bit of pothole repair on Waxhaw Marvin Road and such, but there's still a few places that they missed, of course.
Yeah,
Marvin Road, Newtown Road?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Lake Marvin, as they call it.
I'm partial to the man eating pothole.
That's all I have.
Okay, anyone else, questions? Thank you. Next up, deputies report.
Tomas,
How are you?
Good evening, Council.
hello,
Yes.
sir.
Way to make an entrance.
Keep everybody on their toes, that way everybody can see me.
I love the way he came out from the curb.
Never-
I'm waiting for you to say. That's great.
Last month, we had a total of 42 911 hang-up calls, 5 accidents, 14 alarms. We did 390 preventative patrols, 49 traffic stops, and 18 radar patrols. Total calls for service was 612. While we were issuing the citations, we noticed that the speeds are increasing, and they are getting younger and younger drivers that we are issuing the tickets to. So I'm going to try to get up with the deputies in the area, and we're going to have a speed enforcement campaign this coming month, and try to issue out some more citations and try to get those wrecks knocked down to hopefully 0, where we don't have to work them. Another thing with spring break coming up, I would like to just remind everybody, if you are going to go on vacation, notify us or the sheriff's office, and they will put your residence into a residential check. That way we can look at it in the computer, and whoever's out of town would be able to keep up with their residents while they're out of town.
Tom, I when I got back from up north, I was talking with Mason. And of course, I had seen the new sign, and a lot of the neighbors said the new sign there in front of the school, you know, going north. A lot of people were kind of mixed about it because it was a good thing, but then it was, okay, so I'm accelerating, it shows the numbers. Okay, so, and like, in other words, do people know what the speed limit, there's no speed limit there to let them know, like as opposed to on Johnston Road, when you're heading towards Carmel, right below it, it says, you know,
It's got a small
35.
sign with
Yeah. So I said to Mason, I said, what do you think here? What do you think we ought to do? Because a couple of neighbors had suggested, man, we should just put some sort of sign that says you're being clocked by radar or something like that. I said, what's the ethics on that? And the fact that you are doing it, you can be doing it. He felt like he didn't think it would help one way or the other. I have been out there because my property is right there, and holy cats, I have seen people, they've been clocking that thing at 60. And you just see the 60 and you go, come on. And so is there anything that, is there something to capitalize on that?
I think once it gets to a certain speed, it won't go above it.
Yeah.
It will still record it, but it will not flash it.
Yeah.
As far as putting a sign out there, I mean, we could possibly do that. Maybe that would help out, like, this area is patrolled by radar or LiDAR or something like
of
that.
that nature.
Is it still 45?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Do you have the DOT?
But it doesn't, what's weird is, at 45, it only turns green at 40.
So at 40, it turns red to be like, okay, you're getting up there.
I think
The
it's
speed limit's 45,
Yeah.
then shouldn't it be?
Derek has not gotten the software downloaded
To change it.
to change those. He's been working on trying to get the software
Not that it's
into
gonna
his
work, it's just
laptop
not
so he
working
can
now.
adjust it
No, he
Yeah.
can
to
adjust
speed.
it.
But I'm saying it's not, if it's not working now and it's in red when you're going 42 miles an hour
Right.
and the speed limit's 45, it's not really slowing people down.
In the morning, believe it or not, I have seen a difference in it. There are still some people who will accelerate and speed through there. Hopefully they won't be seeing the red, they'll be seeing blue lights behind them, because that's when I step in and issue out the tickets. But I think that the sign goes from green to orange, and that's warning people from, I think, 41 miles an hour up to 45, and then it's red at 45 on up. But we can check into getting some type of signs, this area patrolled by radar or something like that, and throwing that out there. And we have been increasing the radar patrols in the area, and we've been coming up with some, like I said, pretty high numbers.
Now, Deputy Mason was also saying that he was wanting to maybe, he said Union County would pay for it, but he's wanting to authorize another, and I don't know if he discussed it with you, another study, whatever that means. I don't know if it's a DOT study, because he said now that you've got these homes that are being built across from Firethorn, you know, that whole spread, he says, this is becoming more of a residential area, and it's not supporting 45. It's gotta go down to 35. But I don't know what that involves.
I think that is definitely going to be a DOT survey that they would have to come out
Yeah,
and do that.
but do you have more clout because, you know, the sheriff's department saying, oh, we gotta reduce the speed here, this is too much?
I know that they pull from traffic wrecks. I don't think that they pull from citations,
Yeah.
but they do look at the density of the area also, and that is part of their.
We'll have them come back out.
Yeah.
Christina will have DOT come back out and do another study,
But
because that is a good point.
It definitely, it would be with all the hills, the curves that are in the road.
Yeah.
I think it would be better to drop the speed limit down to 35, but that's my
A
opinion.
neighbor, and I refer to one particular driver as Captain Black, and he's the one that has one of these tuners, you know, like Toyota tuner, and he speeds it up and then it goes back, you know, it's like a backfire kind of thing. And he was doing 60 yesterday. I wish I had gotten his license plate, so he just went right that fast. But anyway.
And there is something that we can do about that.
Yeah.
It is the emissions part. of the muffler. You can get charged. I have charged somebody with that before.
Oh,
So
Isn't there I mean, I got tickets as a teenager for glass packs, I mean, because it was loud.
that's what it is. If it is not from the factory and you put anything aftermarket, you can get charged with that emissions violations part.
That goes on motorcycles too.
we're okay. Everything's all right. It's just fine. Those colors remind me of Christmas. It's okay.
Would it help if we reached out? I know Coach Mack is the one that teaches the kids that are under, he's getting them in. In fact, he's booked for months in advance, and if you have a kid that's about to drive, you know that,
That's what I was
you
thinking.
know,
It's good
because a
advice.
lot of it is, some people go outside of him, but most of it go through the high school. He's looking for people to, he offered me a job until I told him my background. History of driving and stuff, so.
I would even volunteer to go over and speak to the classes, to the kids that are
Wow.
That would be a great,
That'd be great.
they have me, you've been there, I think even Derek has been there, but going into those classes at that age, I think is critical. I would almost assure you, in fact, I'll talk to the principal and see if I can set that
And
up.
I'm sure that Mason would do the same thing because we're right here. And if it helps save a life, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Any more questions for Tommy? All right, Tommy, thank you, be safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Tom. Especially before the year is out.
Yeah. Summertime new drivers.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that. All right, next up we have.
Planning board.
Planning board.
I'll jump in with this. Two things came out of the meeting. The first thing is that John Jones has stepped down as the head of the planning board, and Kelly Cates is going to be chairperson, and that came out of that meeting. The other was a discussion of what we'll be talking about tonight, the text amendment with zoning. So that's what it was. Kelly said that she has a hard time coming to the meeting. She might not be able to come to these meetings, so I guess between Hunter and I, we're kind of
Coming, so she'll be zooming.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think she
She
was
works.
unavailable. Yeah, she works.
Yeah, coming to the council meetings. She comes all the time.
Oh, council meetings, not her meeting.
Yeah, no, I mean, sorry, I meant the council meetings to give her planning report.
Okay.
Did I get everything, Hunter?
Yep, that's good.
All right, next up, PRG board.
We've already gone over almost everything. Like, yeah,
You good?
yeah, we're good.
All right, moving on, consent agenda, need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up, public hearing. Open the public hearing for consideration of ordinance adopting zoning text amendment application 2022-1 for amendments to multiple sections of the Marvin Code of Ordinances regulating agricultural animals. A public comments, B, discussion and consideration. So I always get this wrong, but we open up the meeting, right?
Yep, and this
And
one
we
we,
got a motion to open up the
Yes.
meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and we'll go right into discussion, correct?
Well, yeah. So we have received a zoning text amendment application from Ms. Stephanie Lyons, addressing multiple sections, mainly proposed changes to Chapter 90, which are animal control offenses, and then it also does tie into, her original proposal did tie into Chapter 151 of zoning. The planning board discussed this at their last meeting, and I'll kind of go through the proposed text here in a sec, but basically the background is that the applicant has been dealing with issues going back till, what, September, October? And, you know, when it first kind of arose, like our ordinances are, as I mentioned, there's certain areas that are vague or just unclear and gray. And so it kind of spawned her to look into some of this and look at what some other municipalities are doing. So she submitted this application, which I think she did a very good job at packaging it all and kind of going through it. She references a lot of, she looked at Gastonia, Waxhaw, and Davidson in creating this language, and I'll turn it over if there's anything else you want to add on kind of the intent here and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, so I'm Stephanie Lyons, this is my husband Russ. We lived here for 21 years. We live in Providence Estates, which is down Waxhaw Marvin, a neighborhood of, everyone has about 2 to 5 acres. We currently own horses on 5 acres, and I grew up owning most of this livestock we're going to discuss, so I understand thoroughly what's involved with keeping all these animals. So the first thing I'd like to say is, one of the things about this area that's unique, even when you look at the areas closest to us, is it's beautiful. We have the larger lots. We've kept high development standards over the years, and we still have that small town feel. Over the years, the boards and the different councils have done a great job controlling the growth and preserving the beauty of the area and the horse farms. As Marvin has grown, so the amenities and services it offers with the park, and you've repaved the roads, taken over the roads. Now we have the trash service, the new village hall. Houses, because of all this work that's been done over the years, housing prices have steadily risen. As we responsibly develop this area, while still maintaining the integrity of the beauty. So as we've developed our own identity over the years, the need has arisen to update ordinances to protect homeowners and preserve the integrity of the neighborhoods in the area. So what this application is, it's an attempt to establish some guidance around livestock ownership and management, and specifically, we're proposing what can be owned, the number that can be owned based on acreage, how the animals are contained, how the feed is contained, how the excrement is managed. This is all in the vein of protecting the beauty and the desirability of living here. And a lot of people ask me, why do we need this? Why take on this additional responsibility? Or why should the village take on this additional responsibility? I think it's important that we have some guidelines so that when issues and complaints arise, the village has a framework and more structure to remedy the issue or complaint quickly. These ordinances will also eliminate and reduce current gray or non-existent guidelines with regard to animal nuisances and complaints. Without more structure and a framework to quickly address and resolve animal nuisances and complaints, the village incurs additional expenses. You incur expenses every time Hunter has to go out and visit properties. Sometimes repeatedly. The paperwork entails with that, consulting with attorneys and the legal fees involved with that, and then any third-party resources that the village contracts with, getting them involved costs additional money. And then the final reason is just to preserve home values and the character of the neighborhoods. Limitless livestock can become a nuisance, whether it's the number of the animals, the sound of the animals, the smell, the lack of containment. These nuisances in turn can have a negative effect on neighboring properties if it's unremedied. So with that, I'm happy to walk you through this document, answer any questions anyone has, and go from there.
Thank you. So, like I said, we're going to go through, I just want to mention 2 other main things. So, one I want to discuss, so it went to planning board at their, is it April now, so their March meeting. It was originally kind of presented to them back in February. We then provided them with additional information, discussed through it. I provided some general staff recommendations or definitely some points that I wanted to make sure that they discussed. They did recommend approval of the proposed application with just some amended changes. Those amended changes being basically her original proposal had setback requirements for structures. We kind of then just made that where it just needs to be consistent with the accessory uses and structures. So that's where the text amendment that staff's working on, and it's just easier to do it that way because then it makes it consistent. One of the things that we discussed with planning board was the number of fowl/chickens, which we can kind of discuss that when we go through the ordinance. As well as planning board did recommend adding the restriction to prohibit the ownership of male fowl. So again, we can kind of discuss that when we go through the ordinance. And then the final one is a kind of a catch-all, which Chaplain and I discussed a little bit about today, just trying to make it where it's consistent and compliant with other sections of the ordinance. And it's not going to be that easy, but we'll kind of discuss that as well. Are there any initial questions before we, like I said, I'm going to just go through the 4 proposed changes in your guys' packet.
Well, just because I was in the meeting, so the one thing, or 2 things that stood out from the meeting, and I'm just asking. The first thing is an example, Firethorn. Does not the HOA have their own regulations versus, again, I don't know what's done with HOAs or government, within the government seat turns around and says, no, this is the blanket, okay? So that's the first question is, like, how does that work with HOAs versus the government? The second one was during the meeting, because I'm looking at page 19 of the ordinance, I remember this discussed, and specifically it said, as it says there, number 2, no roosters allowed, which you said male fowl. And I guess, did somebody mention in there that they didn't particularly care for a specific animal being, as opposed to being a nuisance? Any animal could be a nuisance, and rather than define it, that's all. I can't remember if somebody brought that up or not.
Well, some of I guess your first question, the HOA and stuff, and I think that kind of came up during the work session. So basically the stricter rule is always going to apply. Now the village will only enforce what is in our ordinances. Meaning if HOA covenants have more restricted, it's on the HOA to enforce them. Whatever theirs is just has to be the bare minimum of ours. For example, like I'm trying to think, like, I can't. Basically, it comes down to either like maybe setbacks and stuff. Is one good example. I know some HOA covenants is like, or minimum lot size. Ours is an acre, but there are some neighborhoods that have minimum of like 2.5 acres. I mean, when they come to me, or if there are HOA covenants that says it can't be subdivided, it's stuff like that where that's on the HOA. It's a civil thing between the property owner and the HOA. As long as they comply with the village, then they're compliant by our standards. So if the HOA covenants are more restricted, then that's on the HOA to enforce that. We don't enforce any type of HOA regulation.
And conversely, if the HOA is more slack,
then they'll still have to comply with ours.
Okay.
But and the second point about that is when this a lot of the conversation with Stephanie and I, and that kind of got to this proposal was, a lot of the newer neighborhoods here already have some of these regulations in place. It's the older ones, if it's Providence Estates, Valhalla Farms, Meadowlark, that don't, or that maybe have loosely HOAs that don't enforce their covenants as well. As well as there's other properties that are either not in neighborhoods that could be annexed in, that have been approved. For example, the Gates. The Gates subdivisions, that 6 lot off of Waxaw Marvin here, and Ben called me about a month ago, and I think he had somebody that wanted to put horses or ponies on the lot, and I was like, well, the funny thing is we're working on this ordinance right now. So it's like the intent of this ordinance is one, from a regulation to help with staff, but it's also a way for me when I field questions if somebody's moving into the area, I'm telling them what our bare minimums are, because we have little regulation when it comes to horses, poultry, and so on. So I mean, sorry that kind of got a little off topic, but a lot of this is mainly it's going to apply to the village as a whole, but it's really going to probably have the greatest impact. And when I say impact, just meaning where it potentially is going to be seen, either enforceable or help a lot, is the properties that are maybe in your typical subdivisions or especially your new ones.
Most subdivisions are going to have tighter regulations. In fact, they are authorized to have more regulations than a municipality. For example, architectural regulation is one of the big ones, and the state legislators really limited local governments in the way to do that. So they're often going to have more regulations. The question gets to, one, are they going to enforce, and two, areas that don't have them. That most of your covenants are gonna govern things like this.
And during your CCRs, which is recorded at the courthouse of it, and all the news, I mean, they don't fouls or limit the number of dogs or all this other stuff. And all this is what you're talking about doing away with. There's people that's got 15 or 20 acres, okay? Does this affect them?
As drafted, it does, and that was one of the things we talked about, how if you want to move forward, there may be ways to do this. But there should be, I think there should be a scale where you have a limit per acre, and then you're at the 5, 10, 15 acres that you could go up. Right now, it doesn't apply. You're limited for a lot.
Yeah, for example, the Gastonia, it's Gastonia, one of the references that.
And the last one, I think. Are you talking about Bonfire Farm?
No, not that. The tier of amount. I know Gastonia for chickens, I think it was like the maximum was 10 for anything under an acre, and then I think above for an additional acre was like 10, stuff like that. So there was ways, and that was one thing that we kind of discussed with planning board. But you know, from the staff level, I think we can make that work. It's just when planning board discussed it, it was just kind of a brief discussion. We really didn't kind of get into the details. But that is definitely one thing that can be potentially looked into / revised to make it kind of encompasses a whole. Because that's really the only downsize to this. It's going into our ordinances. It's applicable to all properties in the Village of Marvin. I've done this in my previous job, and I did it through zoning, but it was easier that way because most other municipalities have multiple residential districts based off of lot sizes. We've got 2, but if you look at that map right there, about 90% of it's yellow.
Yeah.
So there's no way that I could have really done it through zoning unless already kind of adding those clauses. But if we had like separate zoning districts based off of maybe certain lot sizes and so on, then we could have done it specifically through zoning and tied it to those zoning districts based off of that. But that was a lot more work and it would have been a headache.
This is a problem then throughout Marvin, or just in one area of Marvin?
The potential exists for anywhere you have the acreage. So the gates that's being built here, they have no covenants. So they can go in there, anybody can go in there and have whatever they want on their acreage. Same with anyone that has acreage within the village can do whatever they want right now.
Yeah, and it's like I said, specifically
Well, not unless they have an HOA that has a CCNR that
Correct.
says that you can't do it. So I'm pretty sure the gates are gonna have some CCNRs.
Yes.
that says-
Those are just deed restricted, they don't have CCNR,
But
but it's limited by the village ordinance.
Which doesn't.
And those are,
Yeah.
you know, those are not, those aren't 5 acre tracts, those are 2 to 2.5 acre tracts, one's like 3.5, but.
So if let's just say we pass this tonight, the gates would have to follow this, but what about everyone else that lives in Marvin? Are they grandfathered? Are they grandfathered into this?
I don't think so.
That's where
They would be.
It depends on how you.
I mean, I'm not gonna go tell somebody they have to get rid of their donkey that makes a bunch of noise across the street because, you know, they're making a bunch of noise across the street, or somebody's not gonna go tell me I gotta get rid of my dogs.
And you can phase it in if you wanted. Most of these I've seen have been done they've been done outside of zoning. So they're not seen as a use or saying it's more of a public health and safety or a nuisance. And then you can enforce. And that was one thing, there were some cross references to other sections, including bringing it into zoning. And I think that gets confusing when you have general enforcement provisions and then zoning provisions. I think it ought to be one or the other. But I do think you could enforce, but I would recommend some sort of phasing, just if you were to go there.
So my next question after that, all right, let's just say they're grandfathered, so they don't have to follow this, but the new people do coming in have to follow this. Who's enforcing this? And again, when I look at this, not again, when I see Davidson, Gastonia, and Waxhaw, and they have their own police departments.
That's right now under your ordinance.
Sheriff's got it.
No,
You
you
can
No,
better.
the animal control officer is anybody designated by the county health director. So you have the county administering now, which means you have to really rewrite that because I don't think the county is gonna enforce, they're gonna enforce your dangerous dogs and your other things, but now that you're expanding, and unless you coordinated with them, I don't think they're gonna do the poultry enforcement.
do any of it.
So we would need also to rewrite the enforcement provisions, and you're right, how do you do that? Because we don't have police, and I think that's the way.
I mean, I appreciate the
No, and I think you can
verbiage
do it.
from that, and that's what I told when Stephanie Rusk, they came to coffee with council. I said, my biggest thing is, because at any point in time, if someone says, hey, you know, my neighbor, their dog's barking or their cat's meowing or whatever, and I go to, you know, who's enforcing it? As we put this in, it goes to the grandfather piece and to this piece, and how do we make it?
If you were to
That's my
send it
challenge.
all the way through zoning, then that would be your zoning administrator. And that is one way of doing it. The other is to have it more of a code enforcement position, and we'd have to have somebody authorized to enforce that, and that would be the village. Get more involved.
Which is 100.
Yeah.
Is there a fine assessed or what, how does that?
That's,
I saw fines in some of the
This
things,
one's
but
written.
first, second, third offense, fourth offense, fifth offense.
The enforcement provision is not included in the packet, it got left off, but the current, it has it enforced by the county, but most of it, as written, is about the dangerous dogs. We would need to redo the enforcement provision and make it more similar to how we enforce the nuisance, but we also want to keep, I would almost move this to a separate area because I think the dangerous dogs has different enforcement, because there you can take the dangerous dogs and there's some state law that follows that with how you take and euthanize at times if they get bad. Oftentimes you'll give them a chance where they'll gate and keep the dog more secure. But the enforcement provisions would need to be updated as well, because they don't envision fines and they don't envision something less than a dangerous dog.
Is the stables across from the high school, Joe, is it in Marvin?
Which one?
No.
Right
No.
directly across.
No,
Directly across?
Yeah, from the school.
The big farm?
yeah,
It's
no.
not.
Cedar Farm?
No, and also like this ordinance would really only, it's basically individually residential zone lots in those uses. It's not applying to, in our ordinance, we already outlined, I mean, this is where it kind of ties into zoning a little bit, is in the zoning section, I think we already outlined like riding stables, some other type of like horse, equine type uses. And this is basically specifically for just like individual, the term that animal keeping, like, you know, how am I trying to say this? But individually residentially zoned lots that the primary use is single family. It's kind of, I mean.
But if
that's where it
someone
comes
has a home that has 30 acres, or 20 acres, is that considered
Yes.
individual?
Unless they are deemed a bona fide farm and have that tax exemption from the county, which,
Then we can't touch them with our municipal
Yeah.
zoning as much. They're exempt.
yeah.
But, okay, so say for instance, now just to throw this out there, because Shea Rose Farms has now changed hands, it's Oakwood Farms now. It's on 13 acres, I believe it is. She does have a bona fide equine business, but she also breeds dogs on the side. Those dogs would then fall under,
Dogs aren't addressed in this.
Yeah, they are.
Yes. There's language.
Dogs already exist. The dog
Dogs.
warden already exists.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says no person may locate, construct, or operate any animal breeding, growing, or feeding establishment for commercial purposes within the village.
That's existing already.
It's in blue.
Which one, which?
It's a very end.
yeah.
And I'm
Oh, the
talking to
prohibition
Hunter.
of certain animals and operations. That's what Chaplain and I talked about today. Like I said, I think we'll go through this, and then potentially some of these questions and stuff can be discussed in, because this was, like I said, drafted, and we kind of went through it, and the way I would explain this, like the intent and everything that Ms. Lyons has done, I think the intent's good and it's needed for the village. Some of the language, though, it just has to be cleaned up, because most of the time, and this is why I think she did a very good job, is so most of the time when you get a text amendment application that says, hey, this is what we want, staff, you go do it. Or staff figures out where it goes. Like, she went through the ordinance and found where it would be applicable and so on. And so that's how it's just, that's how it's presented to the planning board, and that's how we went through. But I did have a conversation with Chaplain about it today, and there are certain sections to make it consistent overall, that, as he was mentioning, either the penalties and the enforcement, that will have to also kind of be revised, amended, depending on the outcome. So I kind of want to go through the proposed changes, get the intent, and if we're good with that potential, we're going to have to then go back and just make those revisions to make it all consistent.
All right, let's do that.
So if you guys have the ZTA with planning board recommendations, it should be, I think, the second attachment, or ZTA 2021 final.
Yeah.
So there's 4 proposed changes. The first 2 are pretty straightforward. It basically just changing that chapter title, instead of from the Union County Animal Control Chapter to the Village of Marvin Animal Control Chapter. Chaplain, you don't have any hesitation with that outside of the enforcement parameter?
I don't. I just wanted to note that everywhere else in that chapter, we have designated the county as the enforcement officer, and that's got to be coordinated and discussed. And that's why it may be best to move this to a separate area if we're going to have our own enforcement. If you're going there.
I know, but I'm just, I mean, I made it clear from the beginning, and you know, when I spoke to this, that's the most important piece to this, to me. If you can have this all day, but if it's not going to be enforced, or if it's going to be quasi-enforced or whatever, then it's, and have we shared this with animal control and what we're doing and what they're going, we have to give this to them so they know what they're enforcing.
Except that they won't be doing it.
Yeah, I don't think they would enforce.
They won't. I dealt with this when this issue originally came up. And at the same time, I did have a barking dog complaint.
Oh my gosh, we're muted. We're muted. Okay, mute us.
Well, good thing nobody's been on there except
Yeah.
for
Sorry about that.
But
Mute.
I lost my train of thought. Basically, the county told me they're not even, for a barking dog, for example, it has to like be barking consistently 4 or 5 days straight, and the property owner or the person that's complaining has to have evidence of it before they'll even come out and investigate. So yeah, I mean, like I said, that's why I think the intent's good, because it's definitely creating these provisions that's needed in our ordinance, and especially as we move to, you know, me fully having the code enforcement, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible, as in having language, procedure, and penalties of like basically how to enforce it. So, and I've already, I think I mentioned this during the retreat with the nuisance section and other sections, that's mainly the code enforcement sections I'm working on, and we'll have those revised. So it's like a lot of this stuff can all be encompassed in part of that general approval that will probably be brought to you guys in June, at least for those sections. But yeah.
And I guess to add to that, so the current issue we have has kind of gotten stuck in Marvin because you've got a nuisance ordinance, but you have no other guidelines to address anything. So you keep kind of spinning your wheels, going out, trying to resolve this issue.
We don't have a
There's
chat.
no structure to resolve currently.
Yeah, nuisance are, they're always difficult. That is under the,
Who gets the money?
is that what the,
These are fine, but who, but when he.
those are all anticipating, bills. Yeah.
But when you get this, who gets this dollar amount? Does Marvin get it, or does?
Marvin would, if we're doing the code enforcement and moving it.
Okay. And this right here, it says if you had it up there, you had to place. So,
What's that?
You got, if you, as he says dogs, but if you, they would be in here, they have, who gets the money? Okay. And he says that we have a code enforcement, we get it, but then you also have it right here, what are you gonna stop? the basement hold, I mean,
Yeah, I know, because we don't have the impoundment.
we don't have the impoundment. So, I mean, there's a lot of more work to do other, if you're gonna do this.
Well, and that's why I want to go through this, and basically if we're good with the intent and even some of the regulations that we can kind of discuss, then staff can then go back and revise it and work with, I can work with Chaplain and then get it, if we're going to create it in a different section, or how to then basically reorganize / just make consistency through either this section as well as the adjoining ones.
In this area.
Yeah, that destruction, that's,
Kill them.
well, and that's, a lot of this is envisioning dangerous dogs.
Yeah, but it does, you know.
You two are gonna finalize the wording.
What we're
Yeah, it's
I
right.
had a person called Tommy, said that he got attacked by a dog. He was an 8-pound Shih Tzu. Okay, but he filed a complaint. Tommy came out.
Yeah. Vicious.
Well,
All right, I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna keep going round and round, so
Yeah,
let's go
let's
through
go.
this.
So basically, I mean, we can actually probably just go ahead and skip to number 4, because that's where a lot of the regulations are. The rest of it is
Definition.
definite, I mean, yeah, straightforward stuff. That
I mean,
would
if
be
we're getting
added.
very specific with things like llamas and stuff, shouldn't we put like, you know, donkeys and, you know, I mean, I'm serious, like.
Well, that's how we define livestock. It'd be in the livestock definition.
Mhm. Are you talking about in our current zoning?
I'm talking about what's in blue under number 3.
Including but not limited.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, if we're gonna throw llamas on there, I've got donkeys across the street from me that make a lot of noise and,
Well, they're
you
under,
know,
they.
I am talking to council right now.
I'd refer that back to Chaplain with however they want to.
I mean, if we're gonna get that specific, then we either need to put everything or just say domesticated agricultural and then not give
But-
specific.
All right, but Kim, let me just ask. Your donkey across the street
Yep.
wakes you up every morning.
Yeah.
So do we on Monday go over there, send Hunter over there? All right, Hunter, you go over there. He's yakking. The donkey's yakking. We heard him. So it's $100 fine. How do we do that?
I don't know.
And then do we get to the 5th fine and say, okay, we need to take your donkey out back and euthanize him? That's the part that I'm getting. I'm just trying to wrap my arms around, and we can go through this. And
Me
Chaplain,
too.
if I'm missing something, just say I think you're offline. And Hunter's saying intent, and I can have an intent here all day, but she's got a donkey. I got a dog that wakes me up every morning 6:30 like clockwork. Bam. But so what do I do?
Right now, we have
He doesn't bite.
they'll go to the nuisance ordinance
Noise.
and the noise ordinance.
But that's
And
where
it's hard to get a,
That's exactly the issue with this, is that, for example, with the crowing rooster and stuff, the noise ordinance does apply. However, it's either me, the property owners have to then it's very subjective. And it also depends, gathering that evidence is where it's not easy.
I just feel like it's going down a slippery slope if we're sitting here.
That's what I'm saying, and I understand. Completely understand where everyone's at. It's a slippery slope, and I don't know how to. I don't want to try to enact something where it's going to create more problems than we're solving.
But just to also clarify on your original question about the livestock, that is from that's defined from livestock in our zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Under
Then we
agricultural
should add
uses.
it if we're gonna do that.
So it's not like that, that's basically what's pulled from the agricultural uses and what defined as livestock within that. So getting it, like I said, I want to go through
Okay.
like chapter, like I said before, because at the end of the day, I mean, you guys you have a decision to make tonight. There's multiple kind of avenues how this can be decided on, but based off of the conversation Chaplain and I had, like if this is something that definitely needs to be amended or is looked at, like we want to just make sure we take away the main intent and regulations that is being proposed, so then we can work on how to put it all together.
In my recommendation, and I can tell, I know you'll continue, because there are a lot of moving parts. If you want to move forward, my recommendation would be, we'll handle the zoning, because you do have a zoning amendment tonight. Deal with that, and either bring it back as a new zoning amendment, or as a new code provision that's simplified.
Well, and there's really no zoning amendment tonight, because her original proposal did have it in the zoning. But after some of the conversations with her and what we brought to planning board,
I was looking for it as a course.
it's in her application. I think it has, I get the e-scribe pulled up. In her application, the final,
The audio's not working.
I thought there was a provision where the zoning would say that make the zoning about, you must comply with
yeah,
section
so,
90.
yeah, that was in her original proposal, wasn't it? Where's it at? Oh, this is annoying.
I believe that was.
Okay. Let's see. Is audio better now? Not really sure.
I don't know why.
Oh, that's one. Yep, we should be fine now. Audio should be fixed.
Okay. No, the original proposal and what's the only reference to zoning in this is where it does say basically when it about livestock and horses and fowl, it references the shall comply with minimum setbacks of property lines as outlined in 151.054. That was amended because she originally had setbacks in her original proposal. But since we were amending what's in that section to make it consistent, that's what we did it that way. So instead of having we're doing the zoning part after the fact, like next month, since we're doing all the accessory uses and structures.
Okay.
But the main thing, like I said, is, I mean, I know that there was concerns, comments about male fowl and number and other things, and so like if this is still regulations that we want to revise and come back with you guys, then I do want to at least get some direction on those. But that's kind of up to council's decision.
She can only hear Hunter.
Okay.
Because Hunter's the only one talking.
Well, she can make when other people talk.
I just got the microphone turned on, so it should be fine now. Before it was just picking up from the laptop, so it should be much better now.
Are you gonna go through this or not?
Well, I'm asking you guys, because that's kind of,
We're gonna do this, let's do it.
okay,
If
well.
we're gonna go through it, let's go through it.
I said, so in basically going to adding that 90, it's the change 4, which is 90.042. We currently do not have any language that references current wild animals and livestock in the animal control chapter. So the proposal has these provisions, which specifically addresses the regulations for livestock as defined in what was proposed change 3, horses and wheat, fowl. In her original proposal, it had turkeys, guineas, and all outlined, and then chickens. It was part of planning board's recommendation to combine the two. Going through these, specifically then going into livestock, is that basically the tract shall consist of at least 1 acre of land under single ownership control. Each cow and other number 2, each cow and other large livestock shall have a minimum pasture area of 1 acre. Each goat, sheep, and other small livestock shall have a minimum pasture area of 1/4 acre. Livestock pasture area must be securely fenced at all times.
So, quick question, is the acreage, the actual acreage for the livestock to enjoy, or is it the total acreage of land with the house included?
Minimum pasture area.
Pasture area.
Pasture area, okay.
So if there's any point in this that you want to jump in and add commentary, like I said, just let me know. Number 4, the shelter area shall be kept clean and free from accumulation of animal excrement. 5, all food and feed kept for feeding livestock shall be kept and stored in wrap-free and wrap-proof containers. I will stop because I know that this is a question comment that we had from certain council members. And I'll let you kind of add why specifically that was being proposed in this.
Well, so I got guidance from the state. Well, it was in Gastonia's ordinances, and then I got guidance from the state experts on livestock, and I got their fowl guidelines specifically, and it was in there. So all these points, the containing your animals, containing your feed, cleaning up the excrement. But the issue with feed, if you don't contain your feed, it's a public health and an animal health issue. When you have rodents on the feed, they will go to the bathroom on it, and if you breathe in that, you can get the hantavirus, which will kill you. And it'll also, if you feed that to the animals, it can make them sick. And then, especially where we live with the high humidity, you also get mold. So mold for the animals and the humans is not very good. So that's kind of the premise with the feed. And then Hunter and I also talked about when this would come into play. And it's going to come into play if, let's say, your neighbor's not containing their feed and you get some sort of infestation, and it's going to take a while to figure out where this infestation is coming from and getting that resolved. So that's kind of the underlying premise, how it would affect your neighbor.
And it's as simple as, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is basically getting a sealed garbage can from...
So I've had these animals since first grade, and you just get a trash can from Lowe's and put your feed in it. But you should want to do that anyways. It's just good animal husbandry and keeps the animals safe and you're safe.
Yeah, so basically all that is entailing is that your feed's kept in some type of storage container that's sealed and not accessible.
And so you're gonna know that?
While I agree with the premise, I don't feel like it is the government's purview to check on how you keep your feed in your own property, because that's your business, your property, and it's not our job to go and enforce how you keep your house, how you keep your barn, how you keep anything on your property. This is a public government. It's not an HOA, and it is not our job to enforce how you keep your stuff on your own property.
So the two things on why it's being proposed is gets back into originally, like I said, what the underlying of why this was being applied for is, one, if the worst case scenario issue, it's like we have language in place that obviously I'm not going house to house checking feed if this thing gets approved, but it's if there is a complaint of some type of infestation or something, and I go and investigate and find that somebody's not, well then there's a direct violation that I can enforce.
But how are you gonna know? Are you gonna go house to house and be like, hey, let me
that's
look?
That's what I'm saying.
No, but that's what I'm saying. If there's an infestation, how are you gonna know where it's coming from? Are you gonna go house to house and say, let me see how your feed's kept?
And how are you gonna get the complaints?
It's the same way we see
Let's just say it's a
now.
neighbor. Does that mean that neighbor is trespassing to find out that there's something going on?
Yeah. No, literally, well, and literally with any complaint, it's sometimes they don't know directly where it's coming from. It literally would say, hey, there's a neighbor in my property.
Okay, so how do you handle that? You're gonna go door to door and say, let me see how your feed's being kept?
Well, I would one identify where the animals, if on property. I mean, that's how I have to do it now anyway.
There's, going to the extreme, what do you do with people that have bird feeders and they draw rats and squirrels and everything else to that area? Because they knock all the feed out. Is that part of it?
No.
It does the same thing what you're talking about, infestation.
But like I said, this is basically having these regulations in place as this proposal just to have for enforceable means. And the third part, what's in the back end of that is, once again, if somebody calls saying, hey, I want to have horses or livestock, what are the regulations? I have something to tell them what we regulate and how it's enforced. But most other ordinances that I've looked at either have something similar to this, or it might just state that must comply with any type of public health, stuff like that, where it's very generic, but it's still doing the same intent.
So just point of clarification real fast. While we're going through these, if there's something that y'all don't like, you can cross out the whole thing, or you can change some of the language too. So she's presented this as she wants to see it.
As well as the planning board's recommendation.
But you have the power to change that as you go through this.
not that I don't think that some of this is needed, because I do, and I understand where Hunter's coming from. I just don't know how you're gonna, I don't know how you're gonna regulate it. I just think it's such a slippery slope.
Listen, I totally agree, but I think what Hunter's saying is if we've put something in place that's I don't want to say a placeholder because it is, it's an ordinance. I just need to make sure that the slippery slope comes in, is just like I said, what happens to your donkey? We just enacted something that is that going to negatively impact, because we're squeezing the balloon. We're fixing this problem over here and we're creating a problem over here. And then we're creating a problem because we have an enforcement problem, we have a big brother, big government problem over here. How do you, and that's, it's Stephanie, I think I told you that the other day. How do we marry those? And if we can marry those, I'm all for it. I just don't want to.
So to answer your question, I think if you don't, it becomes a free-for-all. It has the potential to become a free-for-all, which I'm personally experiencing, free-for-all. So that's the other side of it, is we gotta have something to protect residents.
I totally get it.
Yeah, I think if you have a differential between nearby communities as well, then, anybody calling to build a house would say, hey, well, I wanna do this, that, or the other thing. I'll call Axog, do they allow it? No. I'll call Gastonia, do they allow it? No. I'll call Marvin, do they allow it? Yes. So then you may actually attract, if there's a differential between nearby communities, again, you may attract that sort of thing more than you would otherwise if you didn't have the ordinance.
Just to add, think about it as when we did the small cell language. It's better to the goal with this, and like I said, I'm not 100% that the proposed text is exactly how it should be. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has to be thought out, but the intent and having regulations in place is important, because to have those enforceable means. Saying like with the small cell stuff, like if we didn't have it, they could have went up. I mean, it's still kind of, that might not be the best example because of the state, but like it's kind of the same intent there. It's like we adopted that language to have regulations in place for stuff that may be coming down the pipeline. So. And that's what I'm doing, especially with overall with our ordinances that I've mentioned. There's just a lot of things in there that are unclear and unenforceable or just don't make sense. And this was one thing that was on my list, but then it came up as a text amendment. So that's why I made sure to go through the process of being presented to you guys tonight.
And the wording in all of these sections, it mirrors what Gastonia has done. It mirrors guidance I've gotten from the livestock experts with the state. This, containing your feed, containing your animals, providing shelter, and cleaning up the excrement, all that is pretty standard with everybody.
So, where are we at on this?
We're in livestock, and I'm
still at livestock.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next two, 6, all structures must comply with that. With basically is stating that must comply with 151.054. Currently in that section, we have setbacks, standards, all this stuff for livestock, poultry, and horses. So basically it's referencing that section. So we do already have regulations in place, but I'm also working on kind of amending and clarifying. For example, in fowl, like we have setbacks from property lines. In most other municipalities, sometimes they'll have setbacks to property lines, but then also setbacks to adjoining dwellings. Because that's sometimes what creates that nuisance, if it's smell, noise, or whatever, is actually how close it is to an adjoining resident. So that's why it's referencing that.
And anything that's already existing is grandfathered in?
Correct.
So we're not going to go in and say, hey, you're going to need to move, whatever?
If it's a permanent structure, no, you can't. And that's where it ties it to the zoning.
Yeah, and if you're enforcing through zoning or through code enforcement, but if the dog is a nuisance, it could be found to be a nuisance, I don't know that you would grandfather everything in, and I think you would have some say so in your intent on how you would want to do this. If you were to seek removal of certain animals or limit the numbers, you could do that through a phasing process within 3 years from the date of this ordinance. Can't have any more, no more new, and then other people have to phase it out within 3 or 5, however many years. And I'm really thinking more of that into the number as you get into the.
But are we saying, when you say phase it out, are we saying you can't have any donkeys, livestock, chickens, or nothing? Phasing it out? Or are we saying you can have it, but it's got to be in the context of what we've described?
I would do what we described.
Yeah,
Okay, because in the village of Marvin, you're just saying, okay, there are going to be no more livestock here. We're going to get absolutely torched.
Yes, you are.
And again, what I don't want to do is fix a problem and create a larger
bigger
one.
one.
So,
just like, you know, with the livestock specifically, once again, and correct me if I'm wrong, if there's anybody with less than an acre or on an acre in any subdivision and they have one of these animals, that's interesting. But a lot of the places that either already have some of these in Marvin are most likely going to be these larger tracts that already comply with this. But there might be a few number with the livestock.
so this under D where it says male fowl are prohibited.
So yeah, I can get into that next because that's the next.
Well, before we go on to Jamie's point, making a bigger
Not
problem.
necessarily. I mean, they have to make a vote.
If y'all are asking for approval tonight, I'd like for y'all to go ahead and strike through things as we're talking about it.
Right, yeah. So that, I was gonna go back to, let's go down each one. Are you guys okay with this, this, and this?
Yep.
Going back to Jamie's point, creating a bigger problem. Have you guys reached out to your own, like if I were to walk around your neighborhood and assume it has an HOA or whatever and stuff like that, what would the feedback do you think would be on this?
I think with just those 86 home sites, I think that the feedback on some of these specific issues, I think the vast majority would be supportive of, you know, these provisions. There would be a handful of people that would be not be in favor of it, for sure.
But I also think that most of the horse owners, mostly horses aren't, most houses have 2 horses. They have stalls for them. They're fenced. I'm sure they contain their feed, maybe they don't. There hasn't been an issue. And most people clean their stalls every day, which is the excrement.
I mean, we have llamas, we have horses, we have miniature donkeys. There are a few properties that have chickens next to us. They have chickens and roosters, multiple chickens and roosters. I think there's another property that has chickens, and perhaps has roosters as well. But it's most like she said, it's mostly horses.
And I think when you look at Valhalla too, it's mostly single families with horses.
Okay. So as we go through this then, if we're on 4 because we're okay, I assume, with livestock, or Kim, maybe I ask you this, livestock includes all animals of domesticated agriculture, natural, including but not limited to, and they list. Are we okay as a council with this?
He's on
That's
C.
Number 3. I'm just gonna go through and say, what do you want to strike if you want to strike anything?
Oh, you're on 3. I
Yes.
see.
And just go down the line then, as we're almost, we kind of talked through this, but we haven't specifically said, okay, what are we gonna send back to?
I'm okay until we get to number 4. So
Okay.
just scooch to 4.
Everyone okay until number 4, up until that?
Yep.
So now we're at A, shall be unlawful for any person to own, keep, or have and maintain livestock or any fowl, turkeys, ducks, guineas, geese, pheasants, pigeons, or other domestic fowl within the village, except in accordance with the guidelines in this section.
Basically, all that's stating is you outlaw it all, but then you would provide these exceptions, and that's what's the following next. I mean, that's just,
But where does it say, like, about, let's just take geese, for example?
geese falls under fowl.
Okay, so you can't have male geese?
Correct in what's being proposed.
Can you tell the difference?
Okay.
That's Hunter's job.
So all I'll say is that basically
Okay.
it's easy. It's
I'm just
easier
asking 'cause my
to
neighbors
encompass
have
all
geese
into
too, so
all into
just
fowl.
checking.
And the reason why most
Wild or domestic?
I don't know.
I didn't know they made domestic.
I haven't been over to ask.
No, the Canadian geese are just all over the ponds.
No, like, they have like
Oh,
pet geese.
but the male fowl or the rooster, whatever, are typically considered nuisances in most other ordinances.
Okay.
So that's,
fine. Keep
now
going.
you're right, identifying,
I'll just bring up geese under fowl then.
so,
What number are we on?
We're
I'm
four,
gonna leave it
A.
because we're gonna change the stuff under D.
correct. B, so going into B,
So no changes on A, is that correct?
No changes on A.
Okay. Is that, everyone's okay with that? All right.
B, and Calvin, this is, I know you mentioned this about to me.
What's a wild
Yeah.
animal?
Right now, we do have a wild animal ordinance that has some limitations with the size of 50 pounds. It has a few other provisions.
What's a wild animal?
The state prohibits all wild animals anyway.
What's a
They-
wild animal?
It's a state definition by statute.
Look at, what's an example? A deer? You can't have a deer? You can't have a chaplain?
Yeah. I'm not gonna know all the wild animals you
But I'm just saying, but what kind of permit, I'm asking, what
You
kind of
get-
permit can you get from the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission that you can have, what kind of wild animal
A
would you be
cougar.
allowed to have?
Um,
Really? They're gonna give you a permit to have a cougar?
Have you not watched Tiger
I'm
King?
asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Joe,
No, I haven't.
Joe the Lion King or whatever, if you want to have a lion,
Tiger
whatever.
King.
I
I
don't know.
suppose you could keep
Okay.
a squirrel or something like that, and it would be considered a wild animal. Any,
But you have
any
to-
exotic animals.
But
that
in
are
this, you
not
have to get a permit from the
from
North Carolina Wildlife
North
Commission.
Carolina,
You do,
can't
yeah.
keep.
But
Okay.
you may also want to put some size limitations, and the current language has 50
Who's gonna
pounds.
do that?
I was gonna say 40.
Well, a deer would weigh 50 pounds
Do we need
easily,
that?
and a deer will pasture with a
We
horse
have
in
an
minutes.
existing-
They do all the time. So if somebody wanted to have a pet deer and they got the permit for it, I can't see where we would want to prohibit that. It's no different than a horse.
Basically,
Except it's
cow.
a deer.
basically what
Well,
that's.
I mean, but what I'm saying is, it's like, it does the same thing. It pastures with the horses. I see them every day pasturing with horses, wild deer do. They'll pasture with cows. They don't have a problem. So if somebody wanted to have a domesticated deer fenced in their
Okay.
property, I don't see why we would want to
Basically-
prohibit that,
I'm just
right?
wondering what kind of wild animal they're
I mean,
gonna
Basi-
give a permit for.
Basically what that's stating is if I got a call that Andy had a wild deer, and I go out to his property, he's like, hey, I've got a permit from the state, then he's compliant. But if you don't have a permit from the state,
Then
you're
Andy's
fine.
gotta get rid of his domesticated
Or he
wild
could
deer.
go apply for a permit.
Well, the Wildlife Commission would get you anyways.
well,
Yeah, because they were driving around looking for people with domesticated deer.
Yeah.
You complain to the wildlife.
But like, well, that's basically just adding another layer of like, simplifies my, if they have that permit, then they're
Alright, keep going, see.
Let's go.
So livestock, which we've already kind of went through all these.
I think it's common sense that you have to have adequate shelter. I don't know that we need to, like, do we need to put that in there?
Well, if you board a horse, you can board them in pasture or through, you pay more money for the barn.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
I'm just, so do you have to have it? Do you want to have that? But maybe you do in the municipality.
Well, it says in there, it fenced in when there's not a shelter.
Okay.
But do
So-
they have to have a shelter?
No, if they just want to let it go, as long as it's fenced in, it's fine. So I think that
It says
covers
that
that.
livestock must be provided with an adequate shelter to protect them from the elements
And be fenced in when not in the
Yeah.
shelter.
Yeah, so it's
Then
not one or.
then I would change and to or, and I'm not a horse guy.
Well,
But
this doesn't apply to horses, this is live. Horses, it's on, but I think horses states the same thing.
Cattle don't necessarily have to have a barn. They spend most of their time outside.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
horses
anyone
has
that
a
has
shelter.
cattle, they're
Okay.
gonna have to create a barn.
I mean, if you just have if
Then I
you
would-
have one or two cows that you're raising for beef, you don't necessarily have to have a barn for it.
then on 3, I would say or
That
instead of.
Just take 3
Slaughtering.
off.
But there's no slaughtering in fowl.
There's-
But I didn't see
fowl.
anything.
And
Oh, but
you're not,
pigs
you're
and
not gonna
cows are
slaughter
good.
your cow in your backyard. You're gonna take it to
Way down.
you're gonna trailer it somewhere to have it taken care of if you do decide to grow a beef cow.
Well, then we need to be very specific
You're
about
not
that.
gonna shoot it in the backyard and stick it up.
In that definition, then we break out horses.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry.
Bovine, cattle,
Could be
sheep,
pheasant.
goats,
Could be a-
Basically, it's just within that,
donkeys or equine.
we would just have to potentially,
Yes, donkeys are under equine.
Yeah.
Donkeys, horses, zebras. they're all-
that's in, like I said, that's in the definition, all that needs to be done is in the livestock C, We'll just put excluding horses because it has its own regulations in E, which I think is F on here. I just missed the
So
letter.
what'd you put for 3? Did you get rid of 3?
No.
Why?
Oh, I
They
mean,
don't
that's,
need- they
yeah,
don't need
yeah,
adequate
okay. I
shelter.
did.
Or,
Yeah.
okay, I see where you are now.
Yeah.
So we're striking 3?
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, why is poultry in livestock definition?
Because that's the definition from our ordinance. That's
Except
already
because our
existing.
ordinances are wonky.
But so, like I said, that's defining livestock, basically everything else is not fowl, poultry, or that.
So you
Okay,
wanna have
if-
livestock fenced in? Just striking the whole number 3?
No, my thing would be just to have, just change and to or.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, just livestock animals must be provided shelter, and if they're not, they need to be fenced in. Simple enough.
Perfect.
They've gotta be confined somehow or another, whether it's.
I mean,
in
I'm
a
fine with the fence,
building or a
but
fence.
are they in a, okay.
So, one or the other.
That's what I do with my kids.
I mean,
You got electric fence.
I mean, you have to, I mean, it's the same thing with dogs. They have to be either in,
Fence,
they have to, there's leash
I'm
on, they
fine,
can't just be
I-
running free,
Oh, okay.
so.
No, I think we should let the cows run free. Free all of the cows.
They have
Yeah,
free
so-
roaming chicken in the
So we change,
store.
yeah, 3 will change and or,
Not and,
we're changing and to or.
2 or.
Yeah, that's it. Simple enough.
Not and or.
The 4, the shelter shall be kept clean from free of accumulation of animal excrement.
What if they don't have shelter? What if they're just in a fenced-in yard?
Just put designated area.
We're gonna be in-
Or we can scratch it, I don't-
we're gonna
I
be in
mean,
Village
if people
Hall.
are already picking up their poo, why do we need to tell them to pick up their poo?
Worst
It's for-
case scenario.
It's for the ones that don't, because it creates a smell, so it protects you from the smell nuisance.
Where does it go once you move it out of the shelter area?
Your neighbor.
No, I'm being serious. If you're removing it from the shelter area, where does the animal excrement go?
Crickets.
Usually on the field somewhere.
So it can
But you
still
have to-
waft over to the neighbors, regardless of if it's in the shelter or in the yard.
So,
Call active.
What do you guys do with your,
so when it's,
manure?
if it builds up in a
Put it up on the
barn,
fence and
so
make
you've
it
got the
smell like
smell, and then you've got bugs, and
yeah,
all of that,
Put it in
so
the-
you wanna either spread it,
Yeah.
or a manure pile, or something like
It can
that.
be used as fertilizer or whatever, spread.
The main thing is it creates a lot of
If it
flies
just builds up in the barn, that's the issue.
and smell.
So you just can't have buildup, but it's okay to stay on the property. It just can't be built out and mixed into the soil.
Right.
Put it in the garden.
Focused on one number.
Good for the garden.
Front yard.
All right.
They'll
Okay.
have a shelter area because some of them aren't gonna have a shelter, so. say-
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna say designate either shelter or fenced area. I mean, if a shelter,
Any shelter area.
yeah, any shelter area. Basically, it's just stating if they do provide shelter for whatever that livestock is, it must be kept free of that.
So are we going back to 3 now? I thought we
No,
were
no,
going 4.
no, we're on 4.
No, 4.
We should be on
4 is good.
5.
Now we're on 5.
All food, I mean, yes, no, language, change of language.
I don't think we have the right to tell people how to keep their feed. I just don't. I think that's out of government reach. I think, if it creates a problem,
We can tell them where to put the food, but we can't tell them how to store
somebody's
food.
got issues, then that's something to be addressed as something different. But telling people how to keep their feed is not our purview.
Okay.
Well, let's go around and make sure the council, all of council is okay with that, because I understand your point, Andy. I'm just concerned, is it become a health?
Is it currently a problem? Have you got complaints about it now?
No, not that I'm aware of, and I don't know if it has been in the past.
I think,
But-
in fairness, most people, if they're true, have horses and stuff, for their own purposes, they're not gonna want to.
So this is for livestock.
This is for all of it.
Okay.
No, this is for livestock.
Well, but either way, I mean, it's not our business how people keep their feed.
Unless it becomes a health
Unless it
issue
becomes a
for
health
the
issue.
community, right?
But that's
So-
addressed as a health nuisance, not as how you keep your.
Right, but then is there something that we can look to from a health ordinance, something and say, okay, they're not complying, or is there any laws, or is it a law? You saying there shouldn't be a law at all for that, or? And I'm asking,
We should,
you
now,
know.
from my standpoint, we shouldn't be telling people how to keep their feed. Now, if there is if we wanted to put language in there that if there is a health nuisance generated from your property because of your feed being improperly taken care of, that's one thing. But to tell people how they have to do it, that's another thing. As long as it's not hurting anybody else's property, then it's none of my business how to keep it.
Kept and stored in a manner that does not adversely affect the public.
There you go.
Safety
Yeah,
and welfare.
something like that.
Something
yeah.
like that, and not specifically how they have to keep it, but as long as it's not bothering anybody else, I could care less. It's not my
But
job to.
But you see where I'm going with this.
Right.
Because, like, there's gotta be something that we could go to and say, all right, this is not kept in a acceptable manner and it could affect health or has affected
Right.
health, and we can point to it, so.
So, yeah, so I'm fine
That's why we
with
got you here.
how Chaplin worded it.
That's what I
Everybody
was
else is
trying to, yeah, other ordinances just reference that.
And I think this is more common from the other ordinances, and that's
Yeah.
where it came from, but we're gonna get the same,
Outcome.
yeah, in a manner that does not impair public health and safety.
Yes.
Okay. 6 is pretty much straightforward. That's just addressing, unless, like I said, Chaplin, I know.
Yeah, I'm always kind of, well, 7 causes more concern, because if you're gonna pick 3 ordinances, why not all our other ordinances?
Well, I
If you're gonna
mean,
pick some laws, why not all of them?
yeah, I mean, that was a planning board recommendation. I tried to do kind of a catch-all and tie it into, once again, nuisance and noise.
I just
Most
think it gets
other-
confusing having the nuisance ordinance incorporated into this one, within which one you.
Yeah. I think 6 should stay as from a staff level, like I said, because that ties into the specifics of that. I mean, all it's stating is that they must comply with those minimum setbacks. That's either if it's existing or, once again, if somebody comes and wants to have chickens, here's the parameter, or livestock, just in this case. Here's the parameters on what they have to do, and then whatever shelter that they have must then comply with the setbacks and stuff in accessories and structures.
But like if there's an existing structure already, it's grandfathered in.
Yeah, but most of those existing structures are already going to be compliant.
But if
Because
they're not, they're grandfathered in.
Correct. I mean, they should already be grandfathered in, because that accessory uses and structures
just
chapter
checking.
has been the same since
Just
adoption.
checking.
But then 7, yeah, I mean, we can scratch or however Chaplin, if,
I would probably, I mean, because we have other rules and regulations we want them to comply
So
with.
scratch 7?
Scratch 7.
It just gets confusing bringing in nuisance. And then all of your zoning in chapter 151 zoning, well, you just incorporated 150 pages into this provision. And that- If you're gonna enforce zoning, enforce it under your zoning ordinance.
okay. So now D, fowl. 1, the property on which fowl are to be located at least 1 acre in size. Anybody got any problem with that?
Well, I mean, I hate to be this guy, but, and I don't know for a fact, but if there's somebody that has less than an acre that wants to have 2 or 3 chickens, I don't see the problem with it unless their HOA prohibits it.
Well,
I don't
perfect
know.
example, our properties are not 1 acre lots. They're .79 on average. And I know we have a few people that want to raise chickens in their backyard, and they have them, so.
Yeah, I mean, why?
And it's, so
unless
I
your
don't know about the
HOA
1
prohibits it, why
acre.
not? Yeah, I don't want to put a minimum on it because there are a lot of people that want to have 2 or 3 chickens for 2 or 3 eggs a day, and that's it. That's all they want to do, and it's a very, very containable, very manageable thing on 3/4 of an acre, just as it is on an acre. So
should we change the acreage size, or because?
I don't think that we should have a minimum acreage for chickens because
It's foul.
well,
It's foul.
foul.
And
Okay,
it's-
so,
yeah.
okay, so if you wanted a pet goose, is anybody gonna complain about you having a pet goose in your backyard?
Well, we had a neighbor on hole 16 green that
Right.
had chicken.
Right.
I knew they were there, it didn't bother me any, but But,
That's what I was referring to.
right, and we do have geese we do have geese. I mean, I kind of agree with Andy. I don't think I'm trying to find the line of not being big government and big brother.
Yeah.
And
then you've got
pissing
number
somebody
3.
off because someone's gonna say, well, now I'm on 0.9 acre.
Well,
Brother, you can't have chickens.
Instead of your setbacks.
Foul.
Yeah.
I don't give a
Yeah.
damn with chickens.
And that's why that's been addressed in it.
And then you've got number 3 where you're now giving a maximum of foul. So,
Well-
you know, for somebody that's got, 5 acres, you're telling them they can only have 10.
So
All right, let's go back to 1.
Yeah.
Stick with the right order.
one, I'll mention just from a staff level.
No, we said we didn't want to.
Well, that's
I
fine,
think
yeah.
we're all in agreement.
Then
so
that's
just
fine,
strike
and
that
like I
one.
said, because I think it's all gonna work out the same, because you're either gonna have, most of the properties that are gonna have majority are already over an acre, and if they're not, either you got HOA or it's kind of
Okay,
like.
so strike 1, go to 2. We don't need to keep talking about it.
Everybody ran you, there's places that look like there's less than an acre or something in the areas. Some of the areas of Marvin, you just drive around and you see, there might be an acre that has got a house, they've got animals.
So,
We're striking
All right.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number
Striking
2,
1.
male fowl are prohibited. This was what was originally proposed by the applicant, and planning board did recommend to keep no male fowl.
Okay, and I'm gonna, and again, the intent and focus here are on chickens, but I know people in our neighborhood that have geese. And what I'm gonna do when we sign off on this, I'm gonna go knock on their door and say, Hank,
Lift up the leg.
Sally and Sue are good, but Hank, he's got to go. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in this?
No.
and to be honest, even a male chicken, a rooster, as we all know they're called, no more of a nuisance than a barking dog. They are no more dangerous than a dog in somebody's backyard if you proceed into somebody's property uninvited. I mean, it's no different than a dog. If the dog's barking all night long and keeping you up, and I know some people who have that same issue, then that's part of a nuisance. There are ways to keep roosters from crowing. They have crow collars. You can put them inside.
If you put I grew up on a farm, but if you put a rooster inside, can you put him inside the coop and shut him up?
Yep, you sure can. You can noise-proof the coop and put him inside, and then you don't hear him. And let him out during the day. There's ways to mitigate the noise. And they're no more dangerous than a dog. That's for sure.
Well, and my thinking of a male fowl, I've known not here, but in other areas where people had peacocks, male peacocks and swans. Now, if we're gonna be that specific
Somebody else told
about
me about
fowl,
peacocks.
again, I didn't see peacocks listed or swans. So some people want those in their water features and stuff like that. So I mean, where do you draw the line as far as what a male fowl?
And peacock is noisy.
Mhm.
They say you think somebody's in trouble.
So once again, it's up to council's decision, but.
So what's the vote on male fowl? We're going to strike it.
I say straight.
Me too.
So are allowed.
Yep.
We're at one
Teach you
strike.
in trouble.
Strike.
So that's gonna fall back to the noise ordinance. So
Yeah.
if someone's,
Right.
No.
they can call and again, is Union County,
No, it'll be Hunter.
what's that?
It's still
It'll be
gray.
Hunter.
It's, yeah.
At 6 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter's gonna get the call, and what's Hunter gonna do?
Right now, it's.
Probably mute his phone at 6 in the morning. That's what I would do.
Said, yeah.
Well, you'd want the complainant to give you evidence if.
Yeah, and that's how it's done now. Like I said, the simple way
That's how
from
it's
an
done.
enforcement standpoint, if you don't allow it, it's pretty simple.
So then can we not go to that person who has the rooster or the geese or whatever and go, dude, don't put him in the coop, and then at 10 o'clock, you let him out. He can raise all the sand he wants. And then,
Kind of. Yeah, I mean,
Because
that's
I'm
how-
trying to,
that's how- that's how it's-
I'm trying to protect the, because I don't want to be woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning by the rooster going, I'm up, everybody's up.
That's how it's kind of handled now. In our noise ordinance, I think if it's below either 55 or 65 dBA for 8 AM, it's a direct violation, and then over that, like I think if the way our noise ordinance reads, if it's consistently howling, whining, whatever, that's just where it gets gray, because.
So can we have time, to your point,
We have a noise ordinance for
well,
time.
noise in
We
for
do have for
time, but
times.
during the day, correct me if I'm
It's
wrong, if you had
65.
some problems during the day,
Yeah,
correct?
so this is kind of where the issue we've been working on since October can't get resolved, is getting lost in this gray area. So even Hunter has told this family they need to lock up, there were 6 roosters, they need to lock them up, keep them quiet till 8 AM. And still, I have recordings from this past week of it at 6:05 AM. So it's still not getting addressed. They've been told to lock it up, told to make it soundproof, told to put a rooster collar on it. It's still getting lost in the gray areas of how this is all written. And then just to tag onto that, when you look at the different areas next to us, like Blacksaw and Gastonia and Davidson, most municipalities do not allow roosters, so you become an outlier by allowing them.
Well, we're not those municipalities, and we like our
Well,
farms, we like our
we've
open
got
areas.
very expensive homes in the area, and this is, it's a negative impact, and it creates a defect to those property values. And I've gone through and listed out all the properties that have sold recently in the neighborhoods that are affected by this. And they're all over 1.5 million.
So let me ask you this, if we're leaning towards getting rid of that, striking male fowl or prohibited, what would be your next recommendation?
If you get rid of the male fowl, you've got.
No, if we strike male fowl or prohibited, so, which means they're allowed to have a rooster, what would be your next recommendation?
You would
Because
have-
you said there were some gray areas and it's like,
Yeah,
how
I
would
mean,
you correct
we're
that?
currently, the village is currently not able to address this issue.
Official.
So-
But couldn't you do it?
Have you gone to the person that has the rooster, and what is his response?
They said they don't have to
His
give
or
a
her?
rooster.
Then what?
They don't have to give a rooster. And it will be free range sometimes too, because they're allowed to have a free range. They did get rid, they had 6 roosters, I guess they bred chicks, they said they didn't know they were breeding chicks when they got roosters, or they didn't know what they were doing, they didn't know how they bred, so they ended up with 6 roosters.
It is,
So they did get rid of 4 of the roosters, they still have 2. But I've been over there since then, asked them to get rid of the roosters, they said no, they don't have to get rid of them.
so, but in order to help you, there's gotta be a way that we can go back under the noise ordinance and go, you gotta have them in the pen or put a choke collar thing on them or something.
Bark
Because
collar.
I don't wanna be woke up by it. I don't, I totally get that. But I don't wanna, once I say we can't have male fowl, that means geese, that means everything, and we're making one situation, we're clearing one, and we're
Well,
making another
yeah, what I
one.
will say is the original text said no roosters. The planning board added the no male fowl, so that's not that wasn't part of it.
I got you.
Yeah, the planning board combined fowl, and it was partly staff as well that recommended that. The original proposal had turkeys, guineas, all this, and had chickens.
I can't do foul. I'm just, to me, that's a non-starter for me. I'm trying to help.
Yeah, well, and then just to look forward a little bit, right? So we're hearing on the news, egg prices are going up, like all this, the media is creating this frenzy of like making you feel like you have to get these chickens. And I have friends who feel this urge to get chickens because they need to provide for themselves, right? So we've gotten rid of the acreage. We have Tractor Supply opening down the street that's gonna have all sorts of chicks, and they'll be mixed in. So now you're gonna let anybody go get these chicks, and it's just, given the path, the trends, I just feel like we need some controls.
I get it, I totally get it. I'm just, if the roosters never crowed, okay?
And just,
Y'all wouldn't know or anything like that. So to me, it's just gotta be a noise ordinance. I mean, we're piecing and we're just butchering the hell out of this to me. and it's something that we do need. I totally agree with Kim on that. But God, I mean, can we not go to the guy and go, listen, you gotta.
Well, I
Till-
can tell you,
till
I
8
don't
o'clock,
wanna
or
give
9
up my
o'clock.
roosters, they don't bother anybody. Dave here lives 2 doors down from me, he's got roosters, they don't bother any of us. And we don't wanna get rid of our roosters. Our roosters are part of our flock, they protect our chickens,
I get it.
and they have a purpose.
Totally, I totally get it. But if you had a neighbor move in and your rooster's cock-a-doodle-doo at 6 o'clock every morning, but then they came to you and said, hey, Andy, what can you do to help me? Because I work, you know
I
what?
had that situation happen to me.
I work third shift, I get home, and when I get home, I go to bed. And then, as soon as I get to bed, at 7 o'clock, your rooster crows, does whatever, I'd be upset too, but I think you would go, you know what, I'll take care of it. I'll make sure that I put them in the coop and do that.
But not everybody's gonna do that, I get that, but the noise thing is still, it's a noise ordinance thing. And we have a lack of noise ordinance enforcement around here. Loud exhaust, loud stereos, all of it, because trust me, I get woke up every night from loud cars, loud stereos, loud everything, and it's a nuisance. What we need is tougher noise ordinances. That's what we need, not to outlaw a particular. I can't tell you can't have a stereo just because you play it too loud.
Enforcing the noise.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not. Getting rid of the rooster is it's invasive. Getting rid of your stereo because it's too loud is invasive. Turn it down. Do something to change the nuisance. You know, I mean, to me that's what it's all about. It's a nuisance, and I understand the nuisance part of it, and I don't like to have nuisances either. But
to his point, not everyone's going to do the right thing and maybe
Well,
do
but
that. So that's why
the noise ordinance comes in, and that's what has to be enforced.
I think when I researched this with all municipalities, that was pretty standard language. And then when I went to the state, to their fowl expert, the guidance they gave me suggested no roosters as well because of the nuisance factor. So it's pretty common, ordinances out there and guidance from the state suggesting no roosters.
So what do I tell my neighbor, and he is a neighbor, he has the geese and the swan or whatever. He's either gonna be grandfathered in and I don't have to worry about it, but if in 3 years, I gotta tell him he's gotta get rid of the.
She's, I think, suggesting just change it back to just roosters and not male fowl.
Yes.
Well, and we had
not?
talked, Hunter and I had talked about, that these have to be some sort of grandfathering. I thought.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how you
it can some
grandfather that.
well, that's some of the legality of it.
Right. How do you go in and tell a person who's had roosters all his life, and
Well,
maybe
that-
they get down to the number that they're happy with, but then say go in and say you can't have them?
It's tough for a couple of reasons. One, they're gonna say, well, we've had this use, and we're gonna say, well, it's not use, we're going under nuisance and public health and safety and other items, but two, they're kind of their pets after.
Yeah.
a
So
while.
just since we,
I know to him, to me, they're our pets, just like our dogs and our cats, they're our pets. And they're not for just egg production, they are they're pets of ours, and we enjoy them. We just lost our duck, unfortunately, and that was a big hit to the family. So I mean, they're pets.
So I guess to move things along here, because we could get.
what I'm gonna suggest is that, one, Chapman, if this does not have anything to do with zoning, is a public hearing needed.
Yeah, and actually, we could close this public hearing, we're really in discussion, and I was waiting for you to get back, because I just said that. And two, I think y'all are giving great guidance, but still, I don't want to drop this in the middle of section 90 that has county enforcement and other. I'd rather get instruction from y'all and let Hunter and I work with instruction, and I think we need this instruction and bring something back.
Yeah, well, that was gonna be my recommendation, is that we've already went through most of this, but just for speeding up time, the additional comments, feedback, if you guys wanna get those to me, whatever you wanna scratch out. A lot of it's consistent with, like, what's in C is in D and in E. And so
I think we've got a big issue on the, well, and maybe if it's done now, or if we limit it to fowl, or if they want to limit that to chickens with the roosters. I mean, allow roosters.
Say no. Hit roosters.
Yeah,
But then I don't think we're going to get there either.
No.
So I don't know that that matters with the male.
So you wanna bring this back at the May?
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that if each council member can potentially give me their additional comments, concerns of what's being proposed that we have not went through, I can then get with Chaplain as well as the applicant to continue to go through and bring back in May the cleaned up proposal after full attorney review and comments, as well as what all of council provided me. And then if there's anything that council's provided me that the applicant's unclear with, obviously that's where she can speak more on that behalf on why she thinks that it should be different.
Could I suggest like either like a phone call between two councilmen and yourself and maybe me on the line or something like that, or?
Yeah, we can do something. We can
Just
do
to
like,
kinda,
we can do a work session type
so
thing.
we're all, because individually, in all fairness, I may look like I've been raised on a farm, but I have not been raised on a farm, and I'm not necessarily familiar with them. I'm trying to learn as I go, but the bigger issues for me are the domesticated animals that we all can be nuisances and stuff like that. And this is, it's just good to hear the different opinions from different things. So just having one-on-one go to you, I don't think.
Yeah, and that's fine.
So I think we need three things. One,
A motion to close.
close
Well,
the
I was
public
going to
hearing.
mention before we close, if there's anybody, I guess just for the record, if there was anybody else that showed up that wanted to speak for or against the additional regulations as well, if there was anything else the applicant wanted to say.
Do we have anyone else?
Hello.
Dave wants to.
Yeah, okay.
So perhaps, I think you had said if somebody came up.
Just mention your name
I'm
and
sorry,
where you
Dave
live.
Val, 2020 Waxhaw Marvin Road, my apologies.
Okay.
First time I've been to a meeting and spoke. I think, as you say, if somebody came to me and said the rooster's a problem, the rooster would be gone, but there's also another process that people do to roosters. People that are gonna be problems with roosters are gonna be problems, but there's also, and I can't think what it's called, not a crow collar, but there's a process like when you have a cat or a dog neutered or spayed that you do to the rooster so they can't crow. I don't know if you know about that.
I don't know about that.
So when you say male or you say roosters, plus we have a turkey, and we've had multiple turkeys that are male, and those are the ones you use at Thanksgiving. So I think to focus in on rooster is a good thing. But as Andy said, they're family pet. If you limit the amount, I don't know if that helps. Perhaps if somebody had 6 roosters and they're all crowing, I'm sure that'd drive you crazy, but I don't know if one would as well. But eliminating the rooster certainly gets rid of the crowing. But there's processes people do, like spay and neutering, to get rid of that. And as Andy had said, they protect the flock. There's lots of hawks, so having a rooster. There was somebody that I met on the other side of Waxhaw, and the rooster would chase off a bear that would come on a regular basis. So a rooster is important under the right environment, like a dog barks when a stranger comes into the yard. Roosters will keep hawks away, protects your flock. They're your pets. So just, that's my thought. I think everything else you folks are talking about is quite well thought through, even for people that didn't grow up on a farm but look like they did.
Can I get your address for the record?
Sure, 2020 Waxhaw Marvin Road.
Now, David, are you with Firebank?
That's right, yeah.
I just used you guys.
Actually, that's great. I'm retired. My daughter took it over and did a
That's
much
what I
better job than I
learned.
did.
That's what I learned.
And you said your last one was Lavelle?
L-A-V-A.
L-A-V-A.
Side note, sidebar. Just
Is there anything else that you guys would want to say?
Well, I guess to the point of roosters providing protection, if you contain them, it takes away that protection thing because they're completely enclosed, fence covered, whatever, you take that protection.
Well, my chickens run in my backyard, his do too. That's, as long as they're fenced, there's no issue.
That's part of the containment, so when you read the.
So now you're saying that we have to have them in a containment
It's
yard, we
hard.
can't have them
It's-
fenced?
It's hawks that fly in that are
Yeah,
the
I mean-
biggest threat.
So you're proposing that we can't free range either?
That's how
not-
it's
that's-
written.
I mean, the containment is like fenced around the whole property, that's containment.
Yeah, but the hawks fly in from above. The roosters help protect the flock from,
Right, if you
Aerial
want to
attacks.
protect the chicken from the hawk, you could also contain them. It's not required under our proposal, but you could. I think roosters are not necessary for protection, they're convenient for protection. They are necessary for breeding.
Okay. Any other public comments?
So I just asked
We had a,
Tommy, I said, hey, Tommy, what, if the rooster's crowing, he gets the phone call, they go out there, the you write him a noise ordinance ticket or whatever, and then the magistrate takes care of it.
Or the sheriff.
The sheriff or whoever. So.
Or the Tommy.
Again,
Is that right, Tommy? Is Jamie speaking right for you?
There is a thing where if you've got proof, you can take it before the magistrate. You'll have to have times, dates, the duration of it, I believe, and it's got to be a certain length of time. You present that to the magistrate, then the magistrate could issue either a criminal summons for it, which is probably what's going to happen for that violation.
and if it happens once, they'll go through the whole process, and then if it happens again, I gotta think the magistrate's gonna go, okay, we're gonna step it up a bit.
Depending on the severity of it, it's all up to the magistrate on what happens. So there could be a criminal summons, which is basically like a ticket. We give you the paperwork, and then you get a court date, and you have to appear in court, in district court for those charges. Or if it is severe enough, I've never seen it happen, but not saying that it can't, but they could also issue a warrant for arrest for the violation.
and we're limited with our municipal code with the.
We do still need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Just a motion on the table to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
We don't get to find.
All right, motion passes, and then we go into
Yeah,
discussion where we go from
and
there.
I think, just to clarify, because it looks like the zoning has been removed, but I would just do a motion to deny the zoning as it's been withdrawn.
Okay,
Just, because it's on,
it's gonna be in a future text.
yeah,
amendment.
so let's just do a motion to deny the rezoning as moot as withdrawn.
To deny the what?
The zoning text amendment. It'd be to deny the zoning text amendment because it's referencing sort of zoning, but tabling discussion of the.
We'll do something else on the other.
Yeah, because we are still gonna get sort of.
Yeah, but we're gonna wipe out the zoning just to make sure it's handled. We don't have to go through a public hearing. So the a motion to deny the zoning portion is moot because it's been withdrawn.
Zoning portion as moot.
You need a motion for
Isn't
that.
that correct? I mean, that portion's been withdrawn, I think, or they just deny it. I think it's been,
Portion has been withdrawn.
Because it's going into this.
well, is that, well, maybe I'd ask the applicant, did y'all withdraw the rezoning portion, or I can
I
get them?
didn't have mine in zoning.
There wasn't a rezoning. It
It's
was.
a text amendment.
It's a text amendment that was originally did have zoning components, or that was tied, like, that's why the original proposal and everything, and the way it was worded, and why we did a text amendment, or did the public hearing, was in case that it was going into any type of zoning.
Okay,
So, if, for the most part, it's not.
it's really not.
Is it best to just deny the amendment and then staff initiates a
Yeah,
text
let's
amendment
just
on our own?
Deny the amendment, and then in one motion, and then a second to instruct staff to bring another proposed amendment based upon the discussion.
Do you want two separate motions?
Whichever way you want it, I'm fine.
Put it all in one motion.
Okay, and to direct staff to prepare
An updated amendment based upon discussion and instructions.
here, an updated
And this will
That makes sense.
amendment
Put it all in one
based
motion. So it's all
on
together.
discussion
Well,
and feedback.
You get your vote.
Typing it up so it shows up.
Yes, I can do it right.
I got it.
Should be popping up on your screens.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to deny the zoning Text amendment to direct staff to prepare an updated amendment based on discussion and feedback. Where'd you get that?
Okay.
Because
Yep. So Kim moved it.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to find it.
It's gone.
Well, you don't vote, Joe, so it doesn't
I
pop up
know,
on
but I
yours.
still wanna
Just say
follow
further
up.
discussion.
I just wanted to read it, what you said.
Just say further discussion.
Further discussion.
All's in favor?
And the vote's coming up on your screen too.
Okay.
Vote's coming up on
So
your
I
screen too.
didn't, can you,
Here, I'll show you where it is.
Joe doesn't have a vote, so this stuff won't pop up on his.
but I still should be able to read.
You can follow along in the
And
menu.
that's all I was asking for, with all due respect.
Details, and it was down there.
I'm just teasing, Joe.
Now
You're
it's up
good.
there. Now it's,
Why does it keep?
because Austin keeps pushing buttons.
I haven't pushed anything else.
Well, after everybody votes it on the map, it goes back to him.
You see it?
It's in the record now.
Okay, so Hunter and I have some homework to do based upon that discussion, and we'll bring something back.
And I'll set up meeting conversations with all you guys over the next week or two. That's what I'm happening.
That's great.
Stephanie, I would, just real quick, I would recommend doing the recordings. And
Yeah,
she-
I've already had her do that, just because if it got to
Just-
that point, I wanted to
I
have
think
that.
there's,
I've fully documented this whole thing and have recordings sent to
Okay.
Hunter, so.
But I think that's what Tommy was talking about is your avenue. Is it not?
no, it is. I mean, that's, again, there's some things we're gonna have to touch up here,
Yeah.
but I think in the interim, if we can, just make notes of all that stuff and keep track of it and then go, okay, now let's take it, because if someone's not willing to do anything about it, then sometimes you have to take extra steps. But I think you've already taken the extra steps, and now it's just implementing the process.
Okay. All right, moving on.
Yep.
Next up, Village Hall.
So the only thing I have to report is the generator. The
The
generator was
Generator what?
delivered and
So-
installed
No,
today.
that's my note, for me.
It should be they should start it up before the end of the week to get the warranty started from Generac. The handrail is supposedly to be scheduled for tomorrow and delivered. We'll see when that happens. But basically, when those two things take place and the generator is started, we can order the finals for electric and building.
Why could they start the generator today?
They hadn't got the wire all the way through
It's
yet.
not hooked up either. There's no gas
So-
line hooked up. It's
Well, I
just
know
this
they were
stuff.
there working on that today. I thought that's what they were doing
I
today.
don't know if they quite finished.
It didn't look like it was hooked up all the way when I was over there.
It definitely was not hooked
Yeah.
up. It's stubbed out and the gas line is not hooked up, so it's not gonna be, you gotta get the gas company out to hook that up.
They were out
They
there
were there-
today.
they were there
did
today.
The plumber hooks it up, the gas
Plumber.
company will turn on, but the plumber has to hook it up.
All right, well,
So
Well, they were out there today too.
The gas got switched over today.
I'm just telling you, it is not hooked up. There's a dead stump.
The plumber
It's a
will
stub
come
there
there
I'm
to
telling you, but I'm
hook
just
that
saying, all
up
those
probably
people were out there
tomorrow.
today.
But it's the plumber that has to actually do the plumbing.
And then additionally, the punch list for civil and urban has been done and hopefully completed in the next couple of days.
You're welcome.
Probably not
Tim's
civil.
got that covered.
You're
And
welcome.
I
I
apologize
gave up
for
on
not
showing
being
up.
there, I totally blanked on that.
It's okay. We got it covered, and that's all I
I'm
have.
sure Kim was all over that.
Me
All
and
right,
Bestie
I have
were
a
there.
I have a couple questions.
Y'all get me in there.
I have a couple questions.
Nope.
Number one, eyesore of the debris that's sitting out there, and I know it's all related to when the tree gets cut down, they're gonna chip that.
You're gonna chip all the
When
piles.
is that happening?
As soon as she authorizes the
We
contract.
approved it last meeting.
What was it, the chipper?
The chipper and get, well, I don't think they're gonna come out and
Contract with
chip until they take the trees down and then
I
they're
thought
gonna
we
chip
were, I
everything.
thought we were supposed to get an additional quote.
Yeah, I thought that was,
Yeah,
I don't
we're-
know if that was awarded at the last meeting.
You guys told her to get one additional quote and then go with the lowest. So that was the motion at the last
For
meeting.
the tree
Yes.
For the
and the
tree.
tripper?
The tree and chipper, all that.
I
'Cause
know
that
we did
was-
that for the irrigation.
Because remember, the original quote for cleaning up that pole oak and the debris was $3,000. Then we added 6 trees and then went up by $7,500. So,
I know, but they were supposedly the good company and that's why we said to do it.
well, that was, yeah, and then they jammed us up with $7,500 extra dollars for 6 small trees. So,
Okay.
Those minutes are on tonight's agenda if you do want to look at that
So
portion.
the,
I have to check with Derek on that to see. before you-
so if we do need another bid, I know Firethorn is going through a process currently where we're they're removing a bunch of trees in the lake
They got
area
a permit for
to,
that.
what?
Hope they got a permit.
No, they don't need one. Their grandfather did for that. That's, I think
Really?
if Hunter was here, I'd specifically learn that from
Really?
them. Yep, right, Hunter?
Grandfather in. You know why he's
I
not
don't care, Joe. I really don't care. Keep going.
All
Let's
right.
go.
Anyway,
They don't need a permit, their
Anyway,
grandfather.
Yes, basically how the way our ordinance reads, yes.
yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
So anybody can just, is grandfathered in?
No, it's basically that for tree removal, the ordinance reads that any lot that is single-family residential lot that was platted before October 1st, 2007.
Residential lot, it's a golf course.
Oh, well.
But it was plotted before 2007,
It
right?
ain't a
And then
single
the other
family
thing,
lot.
and the other, well, if it's, or any unsubdividable lot, meaning if a lot cannot be subdivided. it's
Oh, they can be subdivided.
Not there,
Can you
not
check
where they
on
were
this?
doing
Yeah.
work.
Sure you can.
Let's
you
check on
can't.
this so we can keep
Can't
progressing.
Yeah.
subdivide that pond,
He'll
which
check
is
on
all
it.
around that pond. Either way,
Agenda.
It's not
my,
the, whatever, keep going.
my whole point was, I know we went through a
They're
process.
using a company, get with Joe and get the company.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just get with the company. I know they definitely took bids on it based on our last annual meetings.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, so the trees will be cleaned up, and then
Michael O'Connor would know. Christina.
we're gonna get a small dumpster at some point for all the trash. Derek's crew will clean up the trash and throw it in the dumpster when everything is done, because there's
Oh, I know,
tires, all kinds of stuff throughout the woods. There's stuff everywhere out there on the property, and it has to be all cleaned up.
We told Civil that they needed all the debris that was like in the grass and all that stuff, they needed to be picking that
Right.
stuff up.
But all the
They
stuff.
might not get all the tire and
No,
stuff.
they won't get all that. So Derek's guys piled up a bunch of trash
Yeah.
that they picked up while they were
Yeah.
clearing. But there's still other stuff back in the woods that will have to all be cleared up and just put in a dumpster. Maybe
they
we
gonna-
can get active to do something on that.
Well, actually,
dumpster or something.
FYI, I'm at the last car show on Sunday at Waxhaw. I met a young kid who has 3 cars in the show, and he actually has he's a high school kid, he has a dump business.
Well, there you go. Call him
the
up, tell him you need trash.
And I told him, and I got his card, and you can take it from there. If you want. Never not working. Daniel Freeman, he's a
There you
junior.
go.
Very
Hook him up.
ambitious kid, local
Entrepreneur,
kid,
there you go.
and you can just tell him whatever you want to do, and I think you have the authority to do that.
I'm sure he appreciates all the comments and on the
She's got
recording.
free money. Are they gonna continue to clear? Like, I thought that they were gonna keep clearing towards the round,
They are
Marks on
some.
there and-
They are some underneath the big trees. They're going to clear some of that.
Well,
But
because Derek said, or somebody told me, I don't remember who it was, if you're standing at the front door facing Newtown Road, if you basically put your arm up to the other roundabout, they were gonna clear all that.
that was the original intent, and it's starting to get thick in there again, so we can do that this fall. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be done. I mean, the biggest part of it is done. We can.
No, I know, but I'd like to see it coming from this
I would
direction.
too, but they didn't get that far, and I'm not really worried about it right now. We can chip at it again next fall when things get cold again and everything
Stuff's
else. Yeah.
So,
They can
Okay.
push their way back.
online with the village stuff, as we're trying to finish everything up, we had 14 trees
Right.
that were out. That for all of you, I think Andy and I spent a Sunday taking those trees. I think Kim initially was there to help point where she
Kim
wanted
pointed.
some trees.
I was management.
Kim, she was upper management.
Index
we,
finger got worn out.
we were grunts.
Just a little bit, no, just a little bit that way. There you go, guys.
And what we did is Andy and I spent pretty much about
The whole
7-8 hours the whole day on Sunday.
Thank you.
Transplanting those trees. So just a couple things I want you guys to consider how we do
It's on the
this or
agenda.
whatever. It
There's a
is?
separate item. on the
Yeah.
agenda
Okay,
for it.
fine. I just wanted to make sure that got on.
He clearly reviewed the agenda report.
No, I didn't look through all of it. I was having issues with it. Some of this stuff is on the fly.
Well, we spent the entire day, and then I have a whole other day actually drilling and setting with
I heard.
park staff,
I
putting
heard.
them in their places. So they're all in the holes.
Where they want it.
And they're going about finishing
Yeah.
planting them.
Okay, that's all. I have. Do you have anything else for Village Hall? I just want to make sure that was covered.
Oh, while we're on Village Hall, design committee, have you guys talked anything about low voltage lighting? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I need to know what I'm putting on.
I understand, but that's not, it doesn't get us in. All we care about right now is.
I'm just saying, you guys need to be looking at this stuff and getting, so that I can get that stuff installed, because we really do need parking lot lights as soon as possible, Joe, the lamp posts, so let's get on that.
I didn't get it at school.
I can look. Let me put something.
We're having a meeting in one.
Side.
You guys see that?
Well, I was just trying to have a meeting real quick.
Having a side meeting.
Before I go out of town, so, okay.
Alright.
Anything else?
That's enough.
Unfinished business. 1, discuss and consider approval of Village Hall dedication plaque.
Really briefly, you guys approved this at the last meeting. I was told to put it back on the agenda. What you guys approved was attached in the agenda packet, so whatever you guys need to discuss, have at it.
So Joe wasn't here, and Joe and I and Andy were talking about it when we were pointing at trees. And Joe still doesn't want one, but as we know, he doesn't get a vote. So, but we were talking about who should be on there, and we felt like we were going down a slippery slope because some people are newer that we have put on here in terms of staff, and if we're sitting here putting on current people, there are lots of people in the past that should also be on there. So this is what I said before. I think the staff that should be on there is manager and clerk, and that's it. And let everything else go. And I've talked to everybody except for Wayne about this, and everybody else was in agreement. So I think that we're going down a slippery slope because we could go way back to Lanny and people who have been looking and put them on there. So I think it's a slippery slope. I think it should just be manager and clerk.
And again, just for the record, so I'm on the record saying this, that I don't think it should be in the form of a very expensive plaque, but maybe something that could be on, there's so much wall space in that Village Hall.
Not anymore. Jamie and I've got we got seals
Got it all
going up
covered?
and everything.
Okay, we've got artists coming in and
Yep.
doing their own personal work. But I'm saying it could be done a lot cheaper in a frame and a simple thing like that, which, you know, but you guys decide what you want to do, and I'll leave it at that. So.
Austin, do you want a formal vote, or are you good with everybody giving the head?
Oh, what the heck, make a vote.
Oh, what the heck? Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to have the plaque
To approve the design as amended.
as presented with only village staff as manager and clerk.
Approve. Okay.
I don't know how else to say that.
To approve the design as amended.
Yes, as amended.
Okay. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, discussion consideration for the Barcroft subdivision road acceptance petition. Hunter.
Okay, we talked about this for the last couple months.
Is the plastic bag gone?
Yes, it's gone.
Is the schmutz in the middle gone?
Yes.
I got a picture.
The
You want to see it? It's there.
developer made the
Never not working.
Never not working.
Engineer went out and reviewed it, April 8th. I provided that letter. I know it says the March 11th date, but it's supposed to be updated. Anyway, so everything's compliant, and as you guys already discussed, to accept the manholes at their current state, but all those other improvements have been made.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve the street acceptance petition and adopt a resolution to assume maintenance of all roads within the Barcroft subdivision.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Surprised that guy hasn't shown up again.
Next up, discussion consideration for the Barcroft subdivision full bond
I know, but he was
release.
mad when we didn't approve it last time. You just want me to do it?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll mention is that the bond, it's unclear if the county holds bond, but if that's the bond that I have, that is in my files, and if we hold it, go ahead and release it.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve and release the bond if we have it and we're allowed to release it for the Barcroft subdivision.
That's good.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
If we're not, we won't do it.
It's just on there because I was like,
Next up, discussion of 2022 Market Day celebration, Saturday, May 21st, 2022, and consideration of Gene Stowe map book purchase not to exceed $2,000 to come from park operations/events.
This says Derek on it, but it's Christina.
So same booklets in your agenda packets. I did ask Gene if he cared if they remained on village property. He said he hoped to share them at the Heritage Room, but he wasn't particular. So if you guys
What's the
want
Heritage Room?
Heritage Room in Monroe, I'm not really sure what it is.
I'm paying for them. They're staying with me.
He didn't seem to think that was going to be a problem.
Okay, and when they fold them, are they stapling them? How,
No.
are they bonding them together?
He said they come
Or
on
bound
mass.
them?
Sounds like a
Well,
booklet, right?
I would assume it would be
I
like
know.
one staple, but they come already folded.
But aren't they gonna look schmutzy with a staple in them?
No,
Who said
they're
no?
gonna be a booklet.
Didn't we say last time that we didn't want staples in them because they were gonna look schmutzy?
It's staples in the
Somebody said
side,
that.
right?
Fine.
I think it would be.
It would be side
something like
staples.
this.
Yeah.
It would be stapled.
Yeah.
Define schmutzy. I think
I
it's
used
gonna
to-
look.
I gotta
But they
Google
come
that.
pre-folded, so we
Yeah.
don't have to do any work with them.
Alright. You
I
guys,
could
you
care
guys choose,
less
I
how
don't
they're
care.
put together.
Huh?
I could care less how they're
Yeah,
put
it looks
together.
like,
They
it
look
looks
great.
like it's gonna
I know,
be
yeah.
1 page, 2 page, you're just gonna
They're
feed the
gonna be
booklet.
done
page four?
professionally, so
Exactly.
I could care less.
Alright, would you guys wanna pay for it?
I'm fine with doing it the way we're doing it.
What did we say we
It's,
had coming in approved, or what is coming in approved so far? How much money have we received?
For
The Marvin Day? How many, how much in
32.
donations?
Wasn't it 32?
20, it's
28?
Hold on, let her answer.
She didn't even know what I was
45,
asking.
79, 23.
I mean, a lot of numbers were coming at me. It was on our consent agenda tonight, and I think it's 22,000.
For somebody to.
Let me I just want to pull it up so I don't tell you. It's 20-some thousand, I
Okay,
believe.
so
It's
low
on the
20s.
consent agenda.
Yeah, I thought I heard 28, that's why I asked.
Yeah, that's something.
22.8.
22.8.
That's what I knew there was an 8.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay. So
Yes.
with 22.8, we're comfortable because we have some outliers that haven't participated, correct?
Are they going to?
I wouldn't count on anything.
Else?
I was told today that you would accept more money from somebody else.
I will absolutely accept money, but I don't see people
The-
lining up to
Our
pay
other
me.
one, well, you got the 5,000, right?
I believe so.
I know you did.
Is this a little secret side? Yeah, I gave you, right?
Because we,
Are we, as
sent it
council
in.
still
I have to look at the.
putting in?
make sure that's.
What we're doing, I'm putting it, I'd like to put it, I'm just gonna do it on my own, and the pony rides, I'd like to be
Yeah,
on.
if we have the pony rides.
Well, if we have ponies, otherwise, either way, let me know when I need to write the check, but I don't want my name anywhere necessary. But you can
Tonight?
say it by. It's over
Blank check, no signature.
It's over
Here we go.
$500, I gotta get the final sign off from the real boss, so.
I like that.
Jamie,
Yes, sir.
put your initial CASH.
Cash. Yes.
So can you,
So if we do have so it's gonna be a donation, but if we do have pony rides, I'd like to be sponsored by the Village of
mayor?
Marvin, no, sponsored by the Village of Marvin Council, period, just council and mayor.
That
if
was
you wanna
what I was
say.
asking, if we're gonna still
Right.
do that, then I'm.
If you wanna
I'm in.
pitch in, I don't care, it
Christine.
doesn't matter.
I'm in.
Do you need a vote for that? And vote on this?
well, yeah, if you don't
Yes,
mind
he
voting on the
does,
Gene
he
Stowe.
does.
What's that?
The Gene
Okay,
Stowe
we need a vote on the,
It's,
approval.
there's a motion in your system here.
Okay. Is it coming in?
It's on, oh, you want me to move it? Okay, I'll move it.
Wait a minute.
I'll make it pop
There
up.
it is.
Oh, Bob moved it.
Bob moved it. Bob's got to read it.
It's gone.
If you click it, you got to, if you click
Now
it,
you gotta go to details.
if you click it, you got to read it.
Oh, there it is. All right, I move to approve the purchase of the Gene Stowe map and books not to exceed $2,000 to come from the park operations and events.
Oh, it's not gonna come from Marvin Day?
Yeah, it'll come, well, that's where.
It's pulled from there.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still confused with where
I
that's coming
don't
up, what he's reading.
Details.
Yeah.
Details, that's where I told you to go
It's not
before.
money.
That's your description page,
So-
and that's
What
where
we have
the
allocated already
suggested.
and what we have in there.
We'll have to figure it out.
Further discussion? All is in favor?
And now it's popping up again. Do you guys like doing the pop-ups? Because we can do them, we don't have to do
No,
them.
it's annoying. Because half the time people are like, where'd it go? What happened?
Just losers.
Oh, Kim voted no. Oh, okay.
You did?
So Kim voted no.
Okay, so everyone,
That is.
Not-
Somebody hasn't voted because the vote's still in progress.
Oh,
Somebody's got to vote.
I close it now.
Oh.
Now that I got the votes.
okay.
Motion passes 4 to
Mayor
1.
Pro Tem is not in a giving mood tonight.
Okay. Next up, we have consider waiving 3 bid requirement for irrigation quotes for Village Hall, well and roundabouts, and enter agreement with vendor to be determined an amount not to exceed, to be determined and authorized manager to execute agreement contingent upon attorney review. So we just need a TBD, fill that in.
Times 2. TBD.
Yeah, so these are the same 2 quotes that we had the last time. I actually only gave y'all 1 quote because I thought it was the same one.
Oh, that's why you're like 88 with 8.
Yeah. So they're both named Todd. One of them's 8,000, one of them's 8,800. So back from the original request was Charlotte Irrigation for 8,000.
We
And
used any of these before?
No, and, well, I did talk to the guy from Charlotte Irrigation, he was out there mapping it out, but what disturbs me on that quote is they want to add another clock. No. It's got to run off the same clock as Village Hall, they need to run a control wire from the clock over there, and they acted like in there that they needed to put one in, and they do not.
Okay. So if y'all want to go with this company, then you can make the motion contingent upon Councilmember Wortman and I working out the details on the clock. But I would like to have an extra $3,000 just for contingency in case something comes up. So I don't have to come back to y'all for additional approval.
Can I have the vendor's name?
Charlotte Irrigation.
Charlotte Irrigation.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to waive the 3 bid requirement of village's purchasing policy and authorize the manager to execute agreement with Charlotte Irrigation at a cost not to exceed $11,000.
Further discussion.
Like that math right there. You see how
All's in
I did that
favor?
really quick?
Motion passes.
Who made the motion? I'm
Me.
sorry. Thank you. Oh, got
New
it.
business, 1, discuss and consider appointment of applicant to the Parks and Recreation Greenway Board for a term expiring 9/1/2024.
Who called her besides me and Joe?
I did.
Naughty.
I'm excited for
Who
this.
talked to her longer?
Me. Oh no, for sure, Joe.
I'm excited for this.
What's that?
I said I've heard a lot of things about her from her neighbors, but I will not repeat.
Oh.
Because
Doesn't matter.
it's hearsay, so I can't
Yeah.
take that as,
Okay.
so I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Anyone
But
else?
anybody that's willing to put their,
Here's
Put
what,
your neck out. I'm in.
in.
Yeah, I was impressed by her application, so I mean, I didn't have right there and then. So.
well, I will say that I had a very long, very nice conversation with her today. I understand where she lives, understand why she wants to be a part of this. She has been in Marvin for 4 years, but only been in this house on Saddle for 3-4 days.
Weeks, days.
Yeah, I mean,
something
she's
like
literally
that.
still moving in. Her parents live in the preserve, and you know, so she's very concerned about. I think a lot of her is really a, you know, how the walkways and you know connectivity and stuff. We got into talking about the Heritage District and at 50,000 feet. So I think she said you're fine to repeat this. She goes, I grew up in California, but not necessarily bringing the California ideas and thoughts here. But there are some good things that when you have good ideas and good things, you know, implementing them. So she was very nice to talk to. I think would be a good asset on the planning board.
Or the Parks Rec and Greenway Board. Either
That's
one.
what I meant.
Quick side note: this was the first application vacancy that we filled with the new online system, and it looks like it's worked well.
Oh, good job, Austin.
Yeah.
Good job.
I'm patting myself a little
I
bit.
know you are.
Any other
No,
comments?
I thought she was. I think she'll be good.
Yeah, very
And
sharp.
she's an artist, and she's participating in.
She actually has a law
Marvin
degree
Day.
too, so she's an.
And she's an
She was a
Egyptologist.
former attorney. I didn't get into that.
What?
I mean, that's
You told me you were going to
I
ask
know.
her.
I was going to ask you.
All right, so
A recovering attorney.
I'm going to make a motion to appoint Jennifer Castellucci to the Parks Rec and Greenway Board for a term expiring 9/1/24.
And before I say further discussion on me is she did want to be here tonight, but she had kind of some
Yes.
symptoms that were, and she wanted to be here to meet all of you, but because of what's going on and her symptoms, so she decided to stay home. So, but she would,
She was
is anxious to hear what we voted. So, any other further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, discussion and compensation for tree plantings.
That's you,
me. Okay, so that's where I was getting to. We spent probably about 9 days now. I think both Andy and I agree that we don't necessarily or don't want to.
9 days?
No, 9 hours, probably 8 hours. Well, it
said nine.
felt
You did
like,
say
it
days.
felt like 9 hours just with that 1 hour with you. Then we
I
got
was
work.
only there for 30
That was
minutes.
the 9 days.
That was the 9 days. So Andy and I spent all of Sunday doing basically tree planting and stuff, which Andy was, Andy's partner was kind enough to loan out his skid loader. So I don't know if you guys know, skid loaders, there's wear and tear on them and stuff, but first off was the fuel that Andy used and stuff. I said, well, let's just go down and refuel up the skid loader for what we used it. And that thing, I'm telling you, eliminated any real hard labor, even though we, you know, everything is done by that.
Even though Joe's
But
pants
still-
split out. And he
Oh, I
was-
know, yeah. You would have seen me, my pants, and I couldn't go home. My pants split in front, so I had, thank goodness, a long sweater to kind of sort of cover it. It was absolute. My wife looked at me when I came home, so it was
It
not.
was rough when we got
Yeah, it
there.
was very.
Bless.
And we actually went to a little shout out to the first restaurant in Marvin we ate at. We ate at the Mexican restaurant right at Publix. I highly recommend it.
El Tecate.
And young kid, and we talked to him about potentially getting involved with the Marvin Day as well. So, but back to what I'm trying to ask for is I think we got a receipt for, it's under $100 total for the gas, I think it was.
Yeah.
Diesel fuel and regular fuel of us, and again, we could only do 2 trees at a time. It was 7 trips all the way from town hall all the way to thing, and moving that skid loader each time because you can't move the trees without the skid loader.
What was his name again?
Andy?
Who's that?
Oh, it was Andy's? Okay.
Well, Andy's partner. So what I suggested is,
Shannon.
if there's a way, and I don't know if there's a way to do this, I talked a little
All
bit
right,
to
can I make a
Christina.
motion?
We got it.
I got you.
You got the motion.
I got you.
Okay.
You
It's in the
ready?
system.
I'm gonna make a motion I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to issue a one-time reimbursement for actual expenses incurred in the course of performing actual duty of village work that consists of the use of heavy machinery and equipment to move and plant trees at the pocket park and park in the amount not to exceed $200. There we go.
Well, we talked about
Well, that
giving.
wouldn't even cover the rental for a skid loader.
We
Okay,
borrowed,
well,
we
how
used the
much?
machine for 2 days. You know, I spoke to Shannon about it. He doesn't want a full day's rental. He said he would take $200 a day for the use of the machine. The
Okay.
use of that machine is probably $350 to $400 a day to
Easy.
rent it. So, and just the reimburse the fuel would be fine.
So that's $400 for the
So
use.
$500?
That'd be
Yeah,
fine.
$500.
Okay, $500.
Okay, further discussion. All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for doing that, Andy, because that was a lot of work. Next up, we consider waiving 3-quote requirement and consider entering into a contract with Blue Ridge Trail Works for construction of approximately 400 linear feet of natural surface trail connecting the new village hall to the existing town hall trail pen.
Not to exceed $3,700. So
Pending
moved.
attorney approval.
It cut
Yeah,
off.
with attorney approval, so moved.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Discussion, next up, discussion of May communications.
Okay, really briefly, this is on the agenda because we don't have an April work session. Everything is, should be on there unless Kim has holidays she wants to add.
Did you put everything I told you about last time?
I did. So everything you gave me last time was added to the newsletter. The only thing that's not on here that I do have queued up already is early voting information. I got that after I put this in the agenda packet.
Good job.
So that's already in the next newsletter and will be reissued in May.
Okay, good. No, I didn't.
Anybody else?
Nay. As long as you got you got Ed Alfador? Nope.
What's that?
I don't know. Do you just not look at a calendar? Like, do you not pull up your phone and just go through the days and just look
I
at it?
unsubscribed from other calendars.
How do you, I mean, I don't think I did either, but You got Cinco de Mayo on there? Spring cleanup day?
Spring cleanup day should be on there.
Cinco de Mayo? With a little. Okay, Ed Al-Fitar, Fitter, I don't know. It's May 1st and 2nd. We're putting one on, we gotta put them all on.
Is that a cultural holiday, a religious holiday?
It's Festivus.
For the rest of us,
Okay. Eid al. Okay.
just look it up.
I know, I see it in my calendar, I have no
Me
idea what
neither,
it
but it's
is.
on there, so it's a thing. Mother's Day?
Did I not put Mother's Day on there?
What the fondue? Wow.
I'll put that on there. I'll add it. What the fondue? Okay.
Wow.
I just literally must have forgot to do holidays.
And then you got Memorial Day, but I'm sure you got that.
Yeah, because we're closed. That's why I haven't.
Rude. Got Marvin Day on there?
It's Marvin Day. Marvin Day should be on there. I got Marvin Day on there at the top. Sponsorships and Marvin Day should be at the very top.
Nuh-uh.
What-
Just Marvin Day sponsorships.
I have it changed for April. I just forgot to change it. It's queued up already.
It's not on the list. Austin.
It's already in my draft newsletter.
Austin. Okay, that's all I got.
Anyone else?
Communications. I will make. I got. Okay.
Damn. Mother's Day. How do you forget Mother's Day?
Next up,
Call your mother.
review and consider adoption of council minutes for March 31st. work session.
Again, really fast. We don't have a work session, just to keep the minutes rolling out as I'm writing them. Just review the minutes and go ahead and adopt if that's okay.
I'm going back to the one that you said was on here. Forester recommendations, trees. Yeah, we sure did. No. We asked them for an additional quote, but we waived the 3 quote requirement and said to enter into the contract not to exceed 10.5, which was the total of the other contract.
But you said you gave direction to get to get an additional quote because she had one at the time.
Yeah. But then if he hasn't gotten it and doesn't think he's gonna get it, then we need to move forward with that and get that stuff cleaned up. Okay, I'm good
The
with
one I
this.
missed the morning one part.
Yeah.
Yes, that was
Just because you weren't here doesn't mean you don't have to look at it.
But I don't have both.
That's true. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the minutes for March 31st, Village Council work session as presented. Unless somebody has any changes.
Put them on the,
No, we're doing it.
no.
now.
We're just going to adopt because we don't have a work session.
That's why we're not doing them in a work session.
oh,
Keep up, Joe.
I know, but I thought we would at least table it or put it on the consent agenda for the next.
But then you're almost delaying minutes a month and a half.
Yeah.
I got a lot building
I
up.
see what you're saying, okay.
Keep up.
Trying to. All right, further discussion? All's in favor?
Everybody knows I'm just joking with Joe, right? Like.
Yeah,
you're just
we'll talk
listening.
later.
Sorry, Dad.
It's dead.
I'd like
We're getting
to make a
there.
motion for an adoption of an additional woodshed to go behind Village Hall.
We did do that.
No, an additional woodshed
A
for
woodshed.
Dad to take care of business.
To go into real closed session.
I did not say that. Or
Move on. Just keep going.
Keep going.
condone that.
Run fast.
Discuss and consider adoption of ordinance amending the grant project fund for coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. Jamie, what do you got?
So in October, you all established a special grant project fund for coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. Since then, the U.S. Department of Treasury has released their final rule. And in the final rule, they brought in their standard allowance for up to $10 million aggregate, not to exceed the governmental entity's total award amount as established, and establish that recipients of CSLRF may use funds up to the amount of revenue lost for governmental services. So this is amending the grant project fund and adding governmental services as a category. And then we're moving funds, we're doing a budget amendment into the governmental services for well drilling, roundabout match, park expenditure, future AV and software needs, and police and safety services.
Going all in.
Going all in.
It's free money.
Free.
Yeah.
It's like Christina
free.
says, it's free money.
It's not free, my child.
Free.
So if someone can make a motion, that would be great.
All right, I'll make the motion to adopt the ordinance amending the grant project fund for coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery as presented.
Further discussion.
Free.
Just for the record, if I could vote, I'd say it'd be a no. All those in favor?
Good thing you can't vote.
I know. Discussion consideration of wayfinding signs or entering an agreement with Arnett Muldrow for a wayfinding master plan at a cost not to exceed $15,000 and an authorized manager to execute agreement. Help me.
So we've talked about wayfinding signs for a couple of meetings. In your agenda packets, there's a proposal for one agenda sign. I think it was $3,200. I'll find it as I'm jumping through some things. Another suggestion that I wanted to present to you all is to actually get a professional wayfinding company that does strategic planning specifically for this purpose to come in and kind of make a master plan for us. This is like a comprehensive wayfinding engagement. They actually take into consideration stakeholder input. They come out and look at existing conditions. They plan for the future. They give you options in terms of what different signage could look like, from pedestrian signage to roadway signage, whole 9 yards. It's a lot more of a comprehensive, more professional way of doing it than us just kind of piecemealing where we think things need to go and what we think needs to be wayfinded. So I wanted to present this option to you all.
It would be wayfound.
Wayfound.
Way to found it, Kim.
They initially came in at $23,000 for the wayfinding plan. I basically told them that wasn't going to fly, so they came down to $13,000. So,
What did you do?
I gotta get those negotiating skills. That ain't gonna fly. All right, 13. How's that sound? Just throw a number
Can I
out.
hear 12?
Well, if there's nothing to find, why are we doing it?
Well, there is stuff to find, and there will be stuff to find.
There will be. Once there is, then don't we look at that once there is places to find?
well, they'll look at
for the cart, Joel.
they'll look at the plans.
Point to
They'll-
it,
they'll-
then build
Point
it.
to where it is, and then there's nothing there. That makes a lot of sense.
No, but they'll put together a whole comprehensive plan, and then we can add to it as we get these things. I mean, there's things here now that we want to point to.
Yeah, you can point to my house. It's
Yep.
there.
Joe's house.
Joe's house. Bob's
Just my
house.
bar.
Yeah. The goose across the street, the donkey.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have been talking about doing wayfinding signs since
Yeah.
I've been on council. And I think it would look nice. I know you don't want to put up any more signs. Could you just put these
I hate the rural sign pollution thing,
Wow.
but it's like.
We're not rural.
Hey, I'm
I mean,
pulling something out
I mean,
left
we
and
got
right, Joe.
Gastonia and Davidson, like ordinances being pulled up, you know, so we're not rural anymore.
But there's different. If you look at what's in your agenda packets,
Like, they look so nice.
and so what this basically shows you is there's different ways of doing like the DOT roadway signs, and then you can have these pedestrian signs. And all of this stuff would be uniform in the MHD district if we decided to go that route. But they'll look at that MHD and they'll kind of present a plan of what they think things should go, where they should go, depending on what types of development we think are going to go.
I'm
in those
definitely a
locations.
fan of that kind of signage in the MHD. It's gonna give it some character. It's gonna help people navigate through it. And
I mean, you can have like, you
This
know,
just the
I
MHD?
mean, like nice Marvin signs too, and
Yeah.
you know, like Village Hall, and you know, the middle school and the high school, and the, you know, I mean, I know those aren't in Marvin, but they would take all that stuff into
Like
consideration.
Marvin.
The park, you know, things like that.
Yep.
I mean, I like it. I think it's a great idea. Again, we've been talking about it since I've been on council, having something, and now we've got MHD coming up, and I think it would be, I mean, I think it's well worth it.
So we,
I just question right now, does it really need to be right now?
They can put the plan together, we don't necessarily have to execute it.
so this is not something that we budgeted for this year, so more than likely what I'll probably try to do is work it into next year's budget. So we wouldn't even start until next fiscal year anyways.
Well, and maybe by then we'll have some MHD movement.
Maybe we'll be in town hall. It's not directed at any of you.
If this is something that other people do, is there grant money available for something like this?
I mean, there may be, but there's nothing that we could get our hands on immediately.
So Union County had been talking about it a few years ago, Wayne, and they were gonna help out with it, and they just, I don't think they have money to do it, but they were going to, like,
They just did
put,
it.
like,
They've been
put money toward wayfinding signs for the county. And it just, they just never followed through with it, never came to fruition.
So I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3-bid requirement, enter the agreement with Arnett Muldrow for a wayfinding master plan at a cost not to exceed $15,000, and to direct staff to prepare a budget amendment and to authorize the manager to have the executive agreement contingent upon attorney review.
Yeah, not to, happen in this fiscal year?
Not to happen.
Yeah.
It won't. But
I
sure,
can
you
make
can
that
say
happen.
that.
Yeah. You don't necessarily need that in a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, consideration to revise Newtown Road, Marvin Road roundabout agreement with NCDOT.
So
Could
moved.
possibly go on here.
So moved.
This is all based off of some conversations we had with Jones Homes and getting some water infrastructure. The attorneys reviewed this, we've gone back and forth with DOT, so.
And we do have a better agreement. We have the language that wasn't in here with the right of
Oh,
the
yeah.
village to terminate, which NCDOT, they told us they would do it because we were structuring our agreement, but we didn't have it, so we had ours subject to DOT doing it. It came back, didn't have it in it, but they put everything in there, so we have the right to terminate. If the project gets stalled, we can provide notice if Jones Homes wants us to terminate, we can do that, or if we don't get the money from them, we can terminate. So, I know a lot of that.
They're estimating 291.
So the agreement has everything that we requested in it.
So moved.
All right, further discussion? Or is there, what's the?
Yeah, you said it, to approve the revised agreement with NCDOT for the Marvin Road, Newtown Road roundabout.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
We're booking.
Next up, discuss and consider adoption of resolution for support CRTPO raised grant application.
Real quick, basically CRTPO is applying for a federal administered grant for funding. Basically this would be additional road improvements, pedestrian improvements and so on. And they just requested that all the municipalities, for us to do a letter of support. It's similar to what you guys did for the county's brick grant or whatever.
But no financial
But but there's no financial tie for us. This is 100% CRTPO as well as 100% federally funded.
How much we getting?
We don't know.
I think the request this year was $5 million.
So we're getting $5 million bucks?
No, that would be what it is, and it would be divvied up, but that would be basically additional funds for us to apply for, work with CRTPO to do certain projects, but I mean, for road improvements and everything.
So in other words, Charlotte gets another $5 million worth of.
Exactly.
And then we get like.
Well, they get 4.5, the rest is.
Yeah, so we get 500,000 amongst the rest of the.
But that's
Yeah.
that's
Still
500,000, that's 500,000 we did not have.
No, 500,000 amongst like
500,000.
18 municipalities.
Right, and
So we
that's
get like
500,000 amongst
I can take
that
that
we
month,
didn't
man.
have.
And that's 15,000.
$1,500.
Which we didn't have, again.
How much is it gonna cost?
And all it
us to
is
raise
a resolution, right?
I don't know, but if
It's already
Joe,
drafted.
It's
It's
already
already
They're written.
if Joe's gonna write a letter, let's at least say Joseph Polino. I mean,
Okay, I
Junior.
Joseph E. Polino Jr.
I
Yeah.
can,
Ermelie.
We've got the resolution in there.
yeah.
It's an Italian.
Yeah. So let's just change that, and then so I'll make a motion to support or adopt the resolution in support of the CRTPO raised grant application with
Just
as
my
amended.
official name.
As amended.
Joseph E.
E. Junior.
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 As amended.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
See what I'm saying?
Motion passes. Next up, open topics.
Joe, this is you, buddy.
I know.
It's all over next door too. People are
Well, I
mad
don't know
about
if it's
their
over next
Calling
stinky
me all
trash.
day.
So it was an interesting conversation I had with Michael Lavelle regarding trash can
It's
pickup.
gonna take forever.
No, it isn't, but it's just, it's gonna explain what's happening here, so.
Everybody knows what's happening.
Well, they're not coming to pick up our containers,
There
we're
we
putting
go.
them out like they've asked us to do. And Michael called his last conversation, they said, we'll be picked up Saturday, it didn't happen, he called him again, and he had a conversation, they said, we can't tell you what's happening.
It's
He
Waste
believes-
Connections.
What?
It's Waste Connections.
Waste Connection, whatever it
So
is.
we're gonna call them at a staff level tomorrow and try to get some push on them, and if we can't, then we're gonna consult with Chaplain about something we can do legally.
Right.
You need to do.
Because what happens, I think they don't have
GBUSA
storage.
too.
You think about it.
It's their
they
own
may
by
not have
Waste
storage
Connections.
for
They
these
are?
containers.
GBUSA,
They're
Waste
just
Connections,
trash.
and Trinity are one
That's
company.
not our problem, they had plenty of notice.
A
back
year.
to-
That's,
yeah,
we
to-
all
to be
understand
able
that,
to-
that's why it may have to be involved legally to say,
Okay,
because
yeah.
what does a resident do that has 4 containers now?
That's
And we're
stuck
putting them
with it.
out every week to
Yeah.
get picked up when they said, but I believe they just may not have the place
It's
for it.
happening
So if
in
they don't have a
Roanoke,
place
too.
for it, we could, I'd pull my trailer around, pick them up, and we'll dump them off in front of their thing and say, you figure it out, because they're not ours and we don't want, I don't want to be responsible legally. I think they own them, but
They
I
have individual contracts with you, we can look
Right.
into this.
They've all been terminated. We had to terminate them before the time was up.
Yeah, so
So-
but there are provisions in the contract of them recovering their property, which,
They probably have a reasonable time, they may even have language in there, I just don't know.
yeah.
So
Probably
we'll get-
30 days.
My wife called them 7 times today, and she finally talked to a manager, and he promised her. He said, I promise you, this is my name and this is my phone number. We will pick up your garbage cans in Amber Meadows tomorrow. If they come by, I will call you.
Okay.
I'll text you and let you know that they picked them up.
Send them over to another
Because-
And then
neighborhood.
send them over to fire.
Now, I'll
Go to
tell you what happened.
Canterfield.
Innisbrook.
Canterfield.
And I'm denying anything I did with this, but she called somebody and they said if they don't want them, we will buy them from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we'll chip them up and remold them and something else.
So we'll call them tomorrow. Staff needs to do its job and call them and see what we can do, and Chaplain will look into it and see what we can do legally.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I had.
Yeah, I don't want them having a 30-day window to pick them up.
No, it should have been
I
done.
have to put them out there every day.
Agenda items, J, 1, review of action.
Okay, so I will send you all calendar invites for the public information meetings. Speed enforcement signs. That was something Tommy said.
Yeah.
So we'll take
He's
care of.
asleep.
And we should be able to put those, we should be able to put those signs directly on our posts without a further encroachment agreement, right? Just adding them to our existing
I
posts.
think the ask was to do another traffic study on Marvin School.
Yeah.
It was
Okay,
good.
but I mean,
It was
the
It was
signs
traffic,
that were
okay.
discussed, we can put them on our own
Like-
hallway.
Yeah, I've got
checked
both of
by
those
radar or
down.
something.
Yeah, that was my next one. The DOT study near Marvin and Saddle Avenue.
Not, all of Marvin Road. in Union
All
County.
Marvin Road. Okay.
The whole
Marvin
thing.
Road. Okay. Hunter and Chaplain will get the revised text amendment. I'm going to order that plaque. Christina is going to order the map books from in consultation with Gene Stowe. Jamie is going to get the payment for the skid loader. I will revise the communications. Christina's going to execute the agreements with Blue Ridge Trail Works and Arnett Moldeau, and her and Jamie will prepare a budget amendment. I think that's it. Christina, do you have anything else?
I don't.
You do.
I mean,
You're
I'm sure I did.
you're checking with about the trees and the chopping and the.
Yep.
Check in with who?
Sponsored by Village Council. Meet with Wayne on Bridge. That's a note for myself. Village Hall Rainwater Garden per Urban Forester list to be sent. Next steps. Notes for myself. $500 to skid steer rental. Chipper contract. Lavelle. Check with Lavelle on the Firethorn company who's doing
Chipper.
that.
Doing
The
what?
tree company.
Tree company, the tree chipper company.
Okay. I'll have to catch this on the rewind.
Check with Willis on the, Newtown Road, look at the ditch inventory,
You got the high school dump kid.
that one right here.
High school
Marvin
dump.
School
What?
Road, Newtown backfill issues.
All of Marvin back
Garbage
village. Oh, no, that one, but the sides
Yeah,
to
the ditch
dips.
inventory.
Yeah. Steve's got a lot of work to do.
Reuse.
Do you need him to sign that?
That's the letter,
Oh,
I've already
that's
changed
okay.
his name.
I got a whole stack of
Design
stuff you
committee
can
needs to meet on the low voltage selections. I need to orchestrate that.
Design meeting.
Charlotte
Low
irrigation,
voltage.
work with Andy on the clock issue, and then we'll enter a contract with, Arnett Muldrow
Yeah, I
in
got it.
next year's budget, and execute the agreement with NCDOT. That's it.
The other thing, and we talked
Call
about it, but we
cards.
didn't talk about it in the meeting. is
Call out cards.
Somehow you're gonna figure out what to do with the shutter company, because we didn't discuss that.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth with her tonight.
Okay.
So, real quick, going back to the,
She
Can I
wants her
just
money in advance.
throw something out? The skid steer thing, you guys, you and Andy did all of that. In light of the fact that in the month of April, we have no, this is it, right?
Right.
This is it.
So, you know, when you do the stipends and stuff, would it be inappropriate or appropriate to their time instead of going to a CRTPO meeting or whatever, get credit for?
We're still gonna go to the CTR.
It's not in the policy though, that's the only thing.
Yeah. And I appreciate.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying in light of, you,
You know
I
what?
wasn't there, so I'm not
Right.
saying, I'm saying, well, I don't need anything, but I'm just saying if,
So when council adopts their compensation, they do it by resolution, and the way that the resolution was written, it has to be like a sanctioned event, so.
I know, I get it. I did not go on record as saying that many in council go above and beyond to do things to make sure that all this stuff is being taken care of, and then again, my appreciation to you and to you for coming out and spending 8-9 hours planting trees when you didn't have to do it.
Certainly, we had the time, and we talked about it, it's like as much as, you know, we get so much grief when the community says, oh, you're spending too much in there, but they don't see what we're doing. That, and, hey, we moved furniture, I had, you know, I brought my
went
trailer
shopping.
over and we moved furniture just to get it in there in the place, saving
It
it for
saves like
for the last 2 months.
$15,000.
It's what it is, I mean, it's like, but you know what? I'd rather just go under the radar and just do a thing, because I always have that in my back pocket. I said, oh, did you spend the, I mean, I know there were a lot of councilmen, Lanny was a big one that did a lot of
We
work.
spent hours and hours and hours
Is that
developing the park. Him and from the PRG board, why can't I think of his name?
Oh, I know, you're the.
Much appreciation.
The older guy.
Dan Wilson.
What's his name?
Is it Dan?
No,
No.
Bob?
Marvin Park, development
No.
park
No.
originally.
He was,
Lanny?
didn't he just pass?
I don't know. He was like, he used to be a concrete contractor. He was.
No, I don't hear that.
older
All
gentleman.
right.
I can't think of his name.
Anyway,
Session?
but thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Finish our other items first.
Oh, are we not done?
Ongoing action items is next.
Yes,
I'm
ongoing
good.
action items. What?
I'm good.
Sick?
I enjoy this part.
Anyone else on ongoing action items?
Nobody else looks at it but me.
I know.
Council comments.
What happened?
Yeah, that's we'll see.
All right, we'll start council
Gonna
comments.
throw it across the
Since
room.
Cam begins to take up a lot of time, I'll start with you. Swain, council comments. What do you got?
My comment is about the ordinance that I've had. I don't think that we're the proper place for them to resolve it if they can't resolve it in their own neighborhood. If they have people that cannot agree on it, then they're wanting us to be the bad guys.
Good point. Anything
Should've
else?
said that,
And
Wayne.
thank the staff for all of it. I know, that's the way I feel about it.
Thank you. That's fine.
Jamie stole my thunder. I I gotta tell you that today was the first day I went through the village hall. So everything we've been planning, everything that I've been hearing, I was so damn impressed at the hard work that the council has done. Physically, you two guys, okay, Kim, you're involved with the design committee, okay? And obviously the staff has been the foundation to make that happen. I mean, all this movement of money back and forth. But I walked around and I looked at that and I went, wow. I mean, these council chambers are awesome and professional. The colors, everything is just absolutely where it should have been. I actually went to a neighbor right here in the Heritage District and happened to go over there as a mission of mercy that the person wanted my help and needed my help. And I said, hey, you want to see some pictures? And the person, the resident, if I told you who it was absolutely just blown away and said, I can't believe this is the town that I lived in 40 years ago, and this is where we evolved to. He was so impressed with the current council and the staff, and I just want to give a big shout out to you guys. You guys have worked really, really hard, and I'm very impressed. I'm so proud of, personally, just like, wow, I'm just glad to be a part of the council that made that happen. But some of you guys really had boots on the ground. I just want to pass that on to you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we were just speaking of, you know, the people that have done so much in the village, and I feel so bad because I can't remember this guy's name, but if he did just pass, I'd like to do something for him because he did
I think we did.
tremendous amount. I haven't heard.
If I'm thinking of the same.
Are you talking about Ray Williams?
No.
That's who we last did the resolution.
Okay, well, I can't think of his name now. He was on the PRG board. He worked with Lanny side by side.
So have it for May's meeting.
Everything. I mean, so just make sure.
Really?
We'd
Really?
like to.
May's meeting.
I'd like to
Yeah,
make
you're like,
sure
let's
that-
wrap it up here, Andy.
No.
Coming from
I can go through records once we're in over
I
there.
just can't. I'm so terrible with names,
Serious.
and I'm so embarrassed that I can't remember his name.
I want to know
because
his name, that's what I'm
I
saying.
served with him on the PRG board for like 3 years, and I just can't think of his name now. So,
Okay.
but anyway, there was something else that I can't think of. So we
I can come back.
derailed my thoughts.
We can come back to you at the May meeting.
At the meeting. Thanks, Joe. You're awesome.
I got something in here that relates to what I'm doing right now, so just, you bear with me.
Okay.
Jamie, and I'll come back to you.
Just real quick, because I know we were down there doing the punch list of the outside. This is and should be our last meeting ever in here,
Oh, please do, please.
which is, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, so, but a lot of hard work. Listen, I know everyone in staff has done. You can't say enough because everyone has just really jumped in to make this be successful, and to get in there, it's really cool. And I know we're getting down toward the end, but it's kind of you know, funny that this could be our last meeting. I say could because you can't ever
Don't
tell.
jinx it,
Make it
man.
happen.
Right. Knock on laminate.
Knock on the laminate.
But staff, thank you for. There are many things that go completely unnoticed, and again, we have Marvin Day coming up, and to the PRG board and everyone that's involved in that, they don't get enough credit for all the stuff they do, and we just appreciate that. Last but not least, also Tommy and all of and Mason, be safe out there. There's just, I mean, we saw what happened today in New York City. Appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you do to keep us all safe, and just be safe out there. So,
Thank you for the support.
yep, thank you. That's all I got.
All right, Tim?
I'm gonna just say, yeah, what everybody else just said. That was all good. It's really good. Yeah, that's all.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start off with just saying
Here we
thanks
go.
to have my furniture out of the
You're welcome.
trailer.
Oh, no, wait, I didn't
Storage
have
fee, I'm not
one.
gonna ask any money for, but got that up. And I will say this, as someone mentioned about talking about councils, I can't tell you, I've been here since 2013, and I can't tell you more proud I am of the council that we have and the staff that we have, and it's like, it is taking a lot of time. I was, the first day I walked in here wondering, what the hell are we doing here for? And it's taken 10 plus years, but the coolest thing I think is, and my kids still ask me, why do you keep doing this, Dad? I said, well, now we're getting stuff done, and that's what's fun. Getting stuff done.
Really? That's what you told them?
And well,
You didn't tell us because I wouldn't let you quit?
that was another issue. But I do, and I remind people of why we went to 5 council member and 6, and we'll eventually be at 6 council because of the little games that people play. But you know, if you think about it, the people that we have now, I couldn't imagine anyone playing games if they weren't getting their way and they just not show up for meetings, so we couldn't have meetings and stuff. I took both my daughters to show the town hall, to see what we're doing, and to see their interest and excitement about that. It was pretty cool. I will like to thank Kim and Christina specifically for tonight for continually prodding me to move this meeting along as well.
I'm putting that's going in a minute.
You're welcome.
I'm bruising your ankles, Joe.
Yes.
Just that far out of reach.
So I knew I'm way too invested in all of this when I literally woke up in the middle of the night going, oh my God, where are we going to put the copier? And I assume that's the slot for
That's the slot for it.
I took the picture and I go, this is where it goes. Because I was walking around because I'm thinking of all the stuff we gotta move, and I'm like, where are we putting the freaking copier? I'm glad that's settled and stuff, but finally, I just want to shout out to, and you guys wouldn't know this, but last weekend, Sunday, Marvin Ridge, Winter Guard, I've been talking about them forever. They took 2nd place in worldwide.
Awesome.
Winter Guard, they are phenomenal. I wish we could figure out a way to have them perform in a couple weeks at Marvin Day. They would probably do it on the field to the music and stuff, but whether, you know, I mean, it is just so cool to watch them, and just, they work very hard, and kudos to them out there, and just love being a part of that group as well. So, and with that, I will need a motion to move into closed session.
That's fine, I can't.
I'll make a motion to move into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A36 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege to discuss personnel.
Oh, I forgot, not personnel, we took that off.
Oh,
I forgot to change the
Sorry,
motion.
not that. Not personnel.
Yeah.
Just attorney-client privilege.
Just attorney-client privilege, yeah.
Sorry.
Forgot to change the motion, I apologize.
Okay, further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now in closed session. Thank you.
Like to make a motion to move into open session?
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 9:21 p.m. on April 12th, 2022.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
I don't really want to. Not so much.
I have one.
Is Tyler gonna be down there the rest of the